You know what time it is, Geek Gang. We are back. And this time we're talking about the Batman from a filmmaker's perspective. And we got the ismahawk team assembled. We got Danny in this thing, Jeremy Lee,
Hey yo.
and Ian. What's good, man? What's good?
Oh, just ready to talk about some Batman.
Just coming off the hype of the Batman.
Man, you know what's crazy? I mean, obviously, me being in Australia and being out here, seeing things a few days ahead of time, it's actually super painful for me because I can't talk to you guys about anything, and I'm just like, I'm like, dude, why hasn't anybody seen this yet?
Dude, that's how the people who went to the March 1st fan event felt. Like, you can't say anything. Right. You've seen it like what, 2 days early or something?
That's gotta be crazy.
It's so bad. Like that just, it hurts me because like you guys know I like talking about stuff when I'm like, ooh, like what do you guys, and I'm just like sitting here like, damn it, I can't talk to nobody about nothing, bro. Like this is so painful.
Now, can you imagine being in the movie? Can you imagine being
like
Robert Pattinson
or working on the film or like, and you know everything you know? Oh no, there's no way.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's funny because I was just watching one of these interviews that he did for, I think, Variety or something, or Hollywood Reporter, where he was like, he had been lurking forums for so long, and he's still lurking forums, just watching fan theories and people talk about it. Right. He tries so hard not to chime in.
You just want to slightly just be like, wrong.
Nope.
Yeah. Just send a shrug emoji, just like, I don't know.
Bro,
sounds good to me.
I mean, yeah, I think it's actually kind of funny, like thinking about it from a perspective of big filmmakers. Like we just assume that they wouldn't be into the fan community, but it's like they probably would be still. Like, just like, what do people talk? Like, how are people thinking about stuff? Like,
yeah. Ooh. Oh, I'm sure, especially when it comes to like different plot points that they're trying to like plot out from the trailers and just trying to see like exactly how much the hook is working for people. So it's definitely got to be something they've got a pulse on.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure we all know for a fact that they do. Hey, 100%. Especially like 100%. All these filmmakers and even studio execs, they'll have all of these fan stuff up for reference too,
right?
Just in their offices.
We know that for a fact, actually. We are fully aware that is something that they do.
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, never.
No,
we would never know that.
No,
we would never know that.
No, of course not.
So chat, just so you guys are aware, this is going to be a little bit different of a take of, I guess, a review of this film. We'll have our personal opinions about stuff, but we're also not going to go into like the technical side of the filmmaking and our thoughts on how some of those things were done, since that's what we do here. So we're like, hey, let's also take it from that perspective, so you guys will kind of get a little bit of a different type of review than maybe you're used to seeing here on YouTube, from just the the fun side and the fan side of things. So I know we got some people.
You're gonna get that too.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah, for sure. That's inevitable. I think that's kind of just a part of the scenario for sure. We got Karim in this thing. Karim, what's good?
Yo.
There he is, the boy.
Yes.
The boy.
Oh, Zack Snyder Blue Man Group. The hashtag.
Nice.
Maker over there.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I guess let's get this started, and people will come in and we'll see what's going on. But as far as like overall, right? Because we'll kind of start with our overall thoughts on the film, and then we'll get into more technical stuff as we go forward. And if you guys are unaware, being here on Absolutely Geek for the first time, could we just kind of introduce everybody so people know who is who here, just in case? If you're following this channel and you don't know what's going on, I failed you. I failed the city. But let's start with Danny.
What's up, everybody? If you don't know me, I'm Danny. Danny Shepard, co-founder of ismahawk. I'm a director, visual effects artist, and actor. And we've Yeah, we made some superhero stuff in our day, so we have a vested interest in superhero films, especially when it comes to Batman.
Yes.
So yeah.
I am Jeremy Lee, also co-founder of Ismahawk, and I'm a cinematographer and visual effects artist slash director when I need to be, when Danny's not there. Help, please. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because I remember just getting so hyped about this Batman movie coming out for so long, and we finally watched it.
Yeah.
What a journey.
What a journey.
What a journey.
Truly. My name is Ian. I am the resident screenwriter and editor here at Ismahawk. And this will be my first, I think, appearance in anything, I think. I'm not 100% sure. They like to keep me in the basement. So I finally broke free. And now here I am. Yeah.
Keep him hidden.
And he's also a talented director in his own right.
There you go.
So there you go.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Danny. Yes.
Hey man, we need everybody needs their roses, bruh. And you guys know.
If you don't know what
here.
Ismahawk is,
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just people. We were just saying this word. People might not know what it means.
Right.
Yeah.
We keep throwing this word at them. Ismahawk, we're an independent production company. We work in narrative film. We just actually wrapped a feature film. We actually a Netflix show that we worked second unit on just came out. It's called Guardians of Justice by Adi Shankar, the same guy who brought you the Castlevania series and soon Devil May Cry animated series on Netflix. We've made commercials, music videos, documentaries. We've been working in film for the last 10 years. And we started out on YouTube with a YouTube channel called Ismahawk. And that's what that logo on Adonis and Jeremy's hat and me and Ian's shirt is. So there you go. There's the introduction.
There you go. That's what Ismahawk is.
Wait, you guys are Ismahawk? You know Ismahawk?
No, not me. Not
me. No.
Okay.
No.
Not me. Yeah, so I'm so excited to be able to do this with you guys. Like we were saying kind of pre that, me being out here and not having the ability to go with my friends, go with the squad to watch a movie and then spend hours outside of the movie talking about the movie. I miss those things. So it's actually really cool to be able to do this on screen and, chat with you guys about it.
Which is exactly what we did after the movie. We stayed
100%.
We literally loitered outside the theater for what, an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Right.
Yeah.
Just talking about Batman.
Yeah.
And we were not finished. We hopped on Fortnite after to discuss it more.
Truly.
So, I mean, it's really dope. Oh, we got Jonathan Bentley in here. What up?
Oh, Jonathan Bentley. What's up, man?
Jonathan Bentley. Oh, man.
Damn.
Hey,
we can't talk about that project.
We can't talk about that, but we will.
So let's just move on.
We'll just move forward. But for those that don't know, I am also a co-producer here at Ismahawk, outside of doing the YouTube thing on this channel. So that's how I tie into this whole thing, guys. But other than that, let's get this thing started, man. And I kind of want to, let's start with Ian. Overall thoughts. On the Batman. How are you feeling, bro? Like, what's going on? How are you feeling about the movie? Like, what's your take?
Okay, so I walked into this movie with really one request, very simple request, and it was, I want to see a graphic novel come to life. I want to see a DC graphic novel story, because that's my favorite aspect of DC, is the ability of comic artists to basically create completely unique visions of these very iconic characters. And I feel like when it comes to a lot of the Batman stuff specifically, a lot of the strength and a lot of the more memorable storylines and deep dives into characters come from graphic novels. So to see that in a film has always been kind of a desire of mine. And in some ways, a lot of other films have kind of made that happen to an extent. There's every director who's touched this series has left their signature on a certain look and in a certain type of Batman and a certain type of whatever rogues gallery member has decided to appear for this film. And for the Batman specifically, just based on everything we're seeing from the trailers, I was sold. I was like, this is going to elevate the material in a way that I'm hoping it will. And obviously, you know, can't judge it by performance by the trailers, because once again, they're picking obviously the sweetest spots. So I was very, very concerned for, you know, going in, just because I'm always a very cautious optimist when it comes to these things. I want to be excited, but I also don't want to, you know, throw my whole heart into something and then it's, you know, like it just walk out and you're just like, that was nothing like what it was supposed to be. What is this? But
just breaks your spirits.
Yeah, and there have definitely been movies like that where I've walked in like super excited and then walked out just like, what? No, that couldn't have been.
I feel like you can instantly tell within the first like 5 minutes if that's gonna happen.
I mean, unless you're watching Mortal Kombat, because the first 10 minutes of that movie was awesome, and then it fell off a cliff. But yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Things got a little weird when suddenly Sub-Zero was the villain, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? Hold on a second. But anyways, so I went in with that basic expectation, or at least that need and want, and I walked out completely satisfied. The texture of this film, visually, Greg Fraser and his team just murdered it. The concept of going for these imperfect anamorphic lenses, like mind-blowing. It created such a beautiful look that you couldn't take your eyes off the screen the entire time. And I was captivated. All the performances in the movie were, in my opinion, fantastic. You know, walking into this movie too, like the Riddler being kind of like the main rogues gallery mate, was quite a surprise, because I feel like a character that is very polarizing. Sometimes he can be, you know, like a little too goofy. You know, you got your Jim Carrey, you got the ones from like the Adam West Show, like it's a character that, like, you know, you gotta be careful. But I think the Zodiac angle really paid its dividends and made that character kind of stand out in a way that, once again, a normal rogues gallery character that would just get walloped in the first like 15 minutes of a movie so we can set up the real villain, right? That's normally what a Riddler feels like to me. So it was great to see him this way. I could go on and on and on, but there's just so much about this movie that I'm sure we'll all unpack as we go along. So really, really great movie. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Jer, what's your take on this, man?
First, I love this movie, and I feel like this is, to me, the definitive Batman experience that I've been wanting. Like, not in like, watching this movie feels like I'm experiencing Batman the way I experienced Batman when I was a kid for the first time. That's what it felt like. Like, it felt like a memory come to life. So yes, I enjoyed it very much in every aspect. And it's funny because, like, how I was talking about earlier, like, you can instantly tell what kind of movie it is within the first like 5 or so minutes.
Right.
The second this movie opens and you hear his voiceover from the diary, I'm like, okay, yep, instantly in. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted.
Good.
Rainy Gotham at night. The intro to like how fear is being used as a tool.
Bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny always saying this, but like, you know, watching something that I'm so into, we tend to say like, oh, if we were to make a Batman movie or we were to make a so-and-so movie, that's what I do.
Right.
It's so easy to say that after you've seen it, because obviously you've seen it. But if you were given those words on a page and, you know, tasked with creating these images, I'd like to think that that's kind of the vibe I'm going towards. So that's why it aligns so well with my whole experience watching the movie. So
no, that's awesome. Yeah, that intro was. We have to talk.
Oh, dude,
because holy crap, that was.
What a way to open a movie.
Yeah.
Not only that, but such an awareness, a genius of understanding Gotham as a character. Yeah. Like the idea that signal goes up into the sky and like. Yeah, I was like,
not just a signal,
just a symbol.
Yeah, right.
It's a warning.
Yeah. I'm one man, but then it's showing the shadows, and
it's so that yeah. We'll talk.
Everybody starts thinking twice.
Exactly.
Yes. And not just them, you're watching the movie because we're watching Dolby Atmos. That was immersive as hell. We were sitting there and I'm like gripping the scene. I'm like, oh, is he there? Is it good? Could be the shot that we see.
Is he gonna pop out?
I think too, before we get to Danny, for those that may have not seen this movie yet or have seen it and haven't seen it in Dolby Atmos, please do yourself a favor. I know it's a more expensive experience, but sound is such a massive part of a film that you need that element to be there. Like in a movie like this,
dynamic range too.
Yeah, for sure.
The blacks. Is the projector still on?
Right.
It is. The blacks, they're just so deep.
So
especially when the movie where all the cinematography is so dark and literally based in black, pretty much everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So Danny, what's up, bro? Like what's good? What's good?
Try to keep this concise, all right? So I got to say that, like, after the first time, like, this is like, we just watched it like 2 days ago, and I cannot wait to watch it again. I need to watch it again. All the opinion I have is formulated off of my first watch through. And my jaw was dropped the entire time I was watching this movie when things weren't even like happening. There wasn't even anything crazy happening. It was just Batman standing there and looking at things. And I was just like, look at it. Like, oh, by the way, if it wasn't clear, everybody.
It's spoilers. These are spoilers. It's in the title.
Big spoilers.
Big spoiler territory. But like, I've been wanting a Batman movie like this my entire life. And I think everybody who knows me, either online or personally, knows that, like, I don't know, Batman's like a core identity thing, like it's a cornerstone of my personality. Like, I love this character. I've grown up with this character. I've wanted to see a movie that truly felt like Batman the Animated Series is literally like my foundational, like, not like, that was the first interpretation of Batman I ever experienced. And everything down to the aesthetic, to the way that it felt, to the villains, everything just, it literally just triggered nostalgia in my mind. That was like, oh my God, this is everything I've ever wanted in a Batman movie. This is hitting all of the right marks. There's nothing triggering in my freaking filmmaker or fanboy lizard brain that makes me go, ooh, I don't know about that one, or ooh, I don't know if I'd make that decision. I was so enthralled and captivated and entranced by the entire movie, by the score, the cinematography, just everything on the technical in the technical world, but the performances, the way that the characters were portrayed and characterized in general, the way that the costumes looked and brought the characters to life, everything about Gotham being a living, breathing place, not just feeling like Chicago or New York or whatever, which is really what reminding me very much of how it felt watching the Dark Knight trilogy, say for Batman Begins. Batman Begins definitely felt like it was a more personality Gotham, but after that one, the other two just kind of felt like New York City. This one felt like, oh my God, this is its own little, like, world. I can't say enough about how much I loved it. Like, I still feel like I need to watch it, at least once more to like have the foundation of my opinion set in. But I'm probably going to watch it like 5 more times, man. Wow. It's just what a movie, man. What a movie, man.
Yeah. I mean, bro, because this is the first time I'm hearing any of your guys' opinions about this movie, like, because we haven't really had the discussion. I called Danny earlier, like, I want to bullet point this stream, and like he was like, oh, hold on, let's wait for the stream. Like, we were about to start this conversation earlier, so I'm so excited because for me, watching it, going into it, I had in my head seeing the trailers, I was like, please God, can we get a detective movie? please. Like
Right.
that's all I was really focused on. I was like, I know
Mhm.
Robert Pattinson's going to be, he's a great actor. So if he
Yeah.
has a great script, he's going to deliver. So I'm like, cool. So I wasn't really concerned about him being Batman like many others might have been, because as fans, we've learned our lesson multiple times that sometimes if talent is there and the good director's there, you just gotta let it happen. Just
You got to trust the director.
You gotta
man.
trust the
You got to
director.
trust that they're making the right decisions.
right. So you know,
Otherwise, why'd you hire him?
right. So I was like, you know what? I'm not really worried about Robert Pattinson, but I really want a detective Batman. I want the detective. That's who I want. And going into this movie and seeing that that's what we were getting, I was so excited. And just the opening sequence alone, like that opening sequence, I was so locked in to the point where I was like, first, like, bro, this looks like Gotham. Like this, it felt like Gotham, but it felt like Gotham from like the Arkham video games, where it's like dark, rainy, just who lives here type of city. Like it just felt,
Gothic.
it just felt so good. I was like, this is crazy. And then, like you said before, the idea of them like hold on. Like is somebody coming? Like is there like the shadows? Like everybody's just looking like just in case.
Thinking
like
twice.
Like hold on, is that symbol because they know I'm doing something dirty right now? Like that's the awesome part about it for me. And I was just like, oh my god. And then the tone of the film I loved. The acting was incredible to me. The time of which this Batman is taking place, and what kind of story they're trying to tell with this Batman, I was like, this is different because it's not the traditional 3 variant version of Batman where you have Bruce and you have the Bruce with the different Bruce that is with Alfred all the time, and then you have Batman. It's like, no, this is a completely different feel of when this
One
Batman.
guy.
Yeah, it's so different, but his arc is so interesting. So I was just I was so excited. I was like, I after the film, I sat there and I was obviously waiting for the post credit, and I was just like, what did I just watch? Like what? Like I was so confused at taking in all of this and seeing imagery that we just haven't seen before. And it was beautiful in a different take than like Zack Snyder, regardless if you like his stuff or not like his stuff, it's undeniable that he knows how to make things look visually gorgeous. You're just like, Jesus, like this is crazy, right? But this was gorgeous in a different manner. It was like the darks, the blacks didn't feel like they just crushed shit. It was like intentionally black. It didn't just seem like, like it wasn't just like, hey, just bring down the shadow slider as far as you can go. Like it just didn't feel like that. So I was blown away by
Kick him with a backlight to separate him from the background. Let's edge light him so he can be all black, but the background could be black too.
Right.
There was not an edge light to be seen in this film.
Oh, it was so cleverly done. And I was completely blown away by the film. And I think for me, I was like, I need to talk technicals with people because the stuff that we've been able to do in play with on our journey of making film, it's like unless you make that type of stuff, you can't really try to have that conversation with people that don't make it. Because when we go see movies, we're looking at the product. We're looking at what was delivered. But if you haven't made a film, you don't really know what goes into the film. You don't know the steps, the process, things that Ian was talking about, the lens choices, why those decisions are imperative to the texture of the film. Like those types of things where I'm like, ooh, I need to have this conversation with the squad. So guys, those are just our overviews, but we're about to go deep. We are about to go deep right now.
Let's dive in.
So I'm glad. I hope that you guys are ready for this discussion because that was just the surface. We're about to go into something a lot more in depth. So I hope you guys are ready for the ride. Let's talk about the writing because I think that's really the driving force of this film is the writing aspect of it. Unlike some would say Zack Snyder's was really the visual thing that was really driving a lot of the film for people. This story is awesome, and the layers of different story threads that seemingly all get paid off in one film was kind of crazy to me. And I think that was one of the things at the end that I was like, what did I just watch? Because it didn't feel like, hey, let's do this to set something up. It seemed like we're going to tell stories that finish in this movie. So Ian, being a writer, right? Being a writer yourself, and you've been open many a time to be like, nah, nope. This was not it. This is not like, and you've never been afraid of voicing your opinion on the technicals of storytelling.
Sure.
How did you take this film?
So, yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. I most of the time when I'm watching a film, like I can't shut it off. Like it's just I'm reading it. I'm reading the page as I watch it, and so like legitimately envisioning the way that they're introducing this information and how these characters are just, I don't know, like there's so much. So I guess we could start with characterization, I guess, of Batman, right? Like Batman in this one, this is year 2. So he's still got that edge where he's not sure where he wants to be yet. And he's definitely not the symbol of justice that he's kind of setting himself up to be. Right. I think visually, a great note of that was the choice of how the bat signal looks. Right. It literally looks like it just got broke. Right. Like they like broke it and they're just like, yeah, that works. And I think it's got a nice edge to it because legitimately, as you know, all the technology that he has, he himself is still just like that bat signal. He's imperfect. He's kind of broken a little bit. And you know, I'm a big fan of any sort of source material that complicates the Wayne's legacy. And I think that having this Batman face that legacy this point in his life was definitely the right move for his arc. Because legitimately, the older he gets, the more kind of sad it is, in my opinion, that like he's like still thinking his parents are like these perfect, you know, just do-gooders, and they're billionaires. Like it's just not going to happen. Like they did something. They gotta have done something.
Not they did something. There's no way you can make this kind of money being good all the time.
I mean, but you know,
also like it's important to mention that the Waynes also like the Thomas inherited that wealth from his family who were founders of Gotham, and it feels like they're going that route with this version as well. Carry on.
But even still though, like I think that like, you know, because like that was one of the things that like they went with this one is he was, you know, a doctor, and he obviously, you know, saved Falcone's life, which was also excellent. Like there's just so many like great little interweaving moments that happened in this movie that really brought every storyline. Adonis, you brought it up, like there's like basically 4 or 5 plots. You could say there's 5, but there's for sure 4. And what's excellent about them is they interweave in a way that's like muscle fiber. They're super tight. There's not really much room for fat. It is 100%. This is, and it's crazy because it's a 3-hour movie. So like on paper, you would think like, okay, wait a minute. You can't somehow make this a little thinner. Like it's so much, but no, it really, from page 1 to what we can assume is page 180 plus, right, was just nonstop driving force towards some sort of a overall satisfying conclusion to a detective story. That could honestly, like for a good majority of the movie, it felt like a police procedural. You know what I mean? Like the detective stuff was actually kind of going places, and I really liked it because I was like, okay, like, you know, once again, like there's definitely some Batman-y things, right? Like Batman walking in and knowing the riddles, like he's able to solve those because he's a smart dude, right? But also I love the idea that we had to watch him kind of figure things out, and like specifically one of the best like detective moments I've seen in a Batman movie, I don't know, maybe ever, but was how he gave...
This might be the only one that I think does any sort of detective anything really, like really commits to the detective concept.
In live action.
With how much he was working with Gordon it was really incredible. You know what I mean? But also when he gave the contact to Selena,
so dope.
And right, like that's such a fun moment. Like it's something that stands out as strong as the later car chase. It's something that stands out as strong as the finale to me, because it's so like, this is what I'm looking for in this character. I want to believe this character is the greatest detective.
Right.
And every time before, once again, everybody approaches this material differently, right? So like, some people focus specifically on Batman as an idea.
Right.
Some people focus on Batman as a tech dude who has the really cool suit and punches really specifically.
Right.
There's different, very specifically. Yeah. So like there's different elements that everybody seems to focus on. And I really appreciate that Matt Reeves, when he wrote this, specifically decided to focus on, once again, the element that is often ignored, which is the detective element. And so because of that, we were able to see a very different kind of Batman that had vulnerabilities, which I thought was interesting. Not necessarily in his suit, not anything like visible, but like as a person. Like when the Riddler was getting to him, like you could kind of see that he was actually kind of like buckling a little bit under that stress. And it wasn't, we don't need to cut to like, montage with Seal playing Kiss from a Rose, but we got like, you know what I mean? Like we got like effectively a real person dealing with these problems in this graphic novel come to life.
Right.
So got Nirvana instead,
which I love.
That was in the way.
So
when
good.
that started, I was like, that's the texture. That's the vibe. Like,
exactly.
It's so perfect.
Yeah.
God, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, even smaller characters like Alfred. Alfred in this movie, which oftentimes a lot of people don't even talk about Alfred in this movie. Obviously you have an incredible like force of talent actually playing Alfred.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But also like the way his dialogue moves. He moves as if he could have trained Batman, which we find out he kind of did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like he's got like this kind of almost like judo-like way that he talks, where he's talking in a little bit of a circle and letting you make the first move and then using your own force and kind of like really moving you whenever Batman kind of like attacks at him. You know what I mean? Because he's literally like, I can't believe that you did this and blah, blah, blah. You didn't tell me about this.
Right.
What the And then like literally like he's like, well, actually, now that you bring it up, the night that they were murdered, which there's a great tweet right now. Somebody was like doing the math and they're like, if the Waynes were murdered, I think it was like June 26, 2001, and it was outside of a movie theater, then June 26, 2001, it's entirely possible that they were leaving a screening of The Fast and the Furious.
Get out of here.
Which is an interesting concept to think about.
Family.
Family.
That's what.
Family.
That's why he's so hurt, because it was about family.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
there's no Zorro movie that came out in 2001.
But I think to that point, Ian, with how he is allowing him to understand stuff without smacking him over the head was the cufflink moment. Was so on the nose of that, of saying, look, like, well, you're not a Wayne, you're not my dad. And he was like, I'm not gonna let you go outside without cufflinks on. And then he's like, look, your dad gave me these. He took it upon himself to say, you're a part of this family, you deserve Wayne cufflinks. And that,
I want your cufflinks, Alfred.
And Bruce at that, you saw the gears turn, like, damn, like he is a part of this family. Like it was just an awesome moment.
Yeah, he literally just got smacked. With that comeback. It's like, oh shit, I guess you're right.
The relationship between Alfred and Batman in this movie instantly took me aback. The moment I saw the way that he spoke to Alfred and was like, "Don't talk to Alfred that way. What the fuck?"
Yeah.
But then I was like, yeah, man, you need, like, this version of Batman needs to overcome that pushing everybody away because he's afraid to get hurt.
Right.
He's like, he doesn't want to get close to anybody because he was close to his parents. He lost them, and look how fucked up he became because of it. It's literally echoed and rippled throughout his entire life as a as a grown adult. And that moment, like in the beginning, I was like, whoa, is this the relationship? And then seeing Alfred slowly getting through to him, even like the moment that you got just the hand reaching out, and then like that in the moment, I was like, it's such a small thing, but it was huge, because Bruce was like, I am accepting.
Right.
I am accepting you. I am like, it's that first step toward the Alfred Bruce relationship that we know and love, of Bruce sort of starting to come around from being this incredibly angry and rageful person to starting to realize that there is more to this crusade of his than just vengeance. And that, like, just those little tiny interactions with Alfred. I wish there were more interactions with Alfred in this.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm like, again, I'm so fucking excited about where this is going to go in the future, and how we're going to be able to see these characters and these relationships continue to evolve, and how this version of Bruce is going to, take the steps to becoming the Batman.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jared, how did you feel about like how it was being presented, like the story itself?
How do you mean?
Like, as far as like the writing, like did the writing itself feel just something new, like a breath of fresh air to you, or did it feel like just like a rehash of another type of a story that we've seen?
Well, first of all, everything's a rehash of everything. But I love the presentation of this one. And really, like, any movie you watch now or any media you consume, it's just the merit comes in the presentation more. Like, it leans more on the meter of, oh, how was this presented and how was this executed, rather than how original is it? Because there are no original ideas anymore at this point. Just
everything's
renamed.
Remix.
Yeah, everything's a remix. Everything's renamed. Just but the presentation of this is so, again, refreshing for me, because this is the exact kind of thing that I wanted to see in live action. And it just reminds me of, going to the library as a kid and reading graphic novels off the shelf and being like, flipping through page by page, and you see the little boxes and it says the date, and says it narrates what happens, and you're turning the pages and you see the colors and the illustrations. That's what this movie felt like. And the presentation of this story, especially the way it unfolds. And Batman's in his Tumblr era, and I'm all for it. Let's go.
Got the MCR haircut.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's going full emo.
Yeah, and the second that shot where he closes the journal and says year 2, I'm like,
so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah,
so good. Like,
so you can fucking tell that Matt Reeves cares, man. You can tell he understands this character. For the love of God, like, finally a filmmaker who I think fundamentally understands the core idea, not understands very well aspects of Batman. I think every director who's done it has understood aspects of Batman, but Matt Reeves is the first one where I'm like, this dude understands every nuanced detail about this character and about this world and about like the interpersonal relationships between the characters and Gotham as this sort of ethereal sort of entity that sort of has its own life, right? Gotham is its own sort of
the city is a character in itself.
The city is a character in itself.
And most other movies, or in whatever medium, it feels like the cities in any, like, fictional cities in superhero stuff feels like a location tagline rather than the character itself.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, speaking of that, like, just location wise, like, there wasn't a lot of locations in this movie. There was like 3-4 maybe. Like, because they kept going back to the same club. You're at Bruce's house,
Iceberg Lounge.
We kept going back to certain locations, but every place that it was the use of them. It wasn't, hey, how many locations can we shoot at? How crazy? It's like, no, like, we don't really need to explore everything in Gotham right now, because that's not what's really the focus of this movie right now. and I liked that aspect of it. It didn't seem like we were just at locations for location's sake. It was, no, there's a reason why we're here. There's a reason why the Iceberg Lounge was such a focal point of the movie. And then you find out when the sniper shot happens that my man's been outside the Iceberg Lounge the whole time. Like it's so well thought out in how they wrote the story to me. And I think too, like some of the I think one of the biggest things for me was Selina's character and Batman's character becoming who they are. That we becoming the people that we know them to be. Because in this, we're like, oh, because I've seen some people's thoughts on, oh, well, she's not really Catwoman. It's like, well, that's the point. Like, she's not Catwoman yet. You see that in that discussion at the end when she's like, look, you should come with me. We can do this and da-da-da. We can run things out.
Let's go to Bloodhaven.
Let's go to Bloodhaven. Like, and it was one of those things to me. I was like, okay. And then we see Batman. He had just came from him guiding people out with that light, right? That everybody's following, like him holding, like helping that girl through an airlift scenario, and she grabs him like don't, am I gonna be okay? And he's like, you're basically without saying a word, right? You're gonna be good. Like him becoming more of a superhero, or like my brother would say, just a regular hero because he doesn't have superpowers. But
superpower is money.
but it was one of those things where they're becoming that, and at the end when they ride off in different directions, it's signifying that they're going their separate ways onto their journeys. It was just little stuff like that I was like, this movie is so layered. It's ridiculous. It's kind of crazy.
It feels like a TV series just crunched into a 3-hour long movie. I thought it was like, the whole time I was like, look at all these different story threads. Like this very well could have felt
I was just saying, imagine if this was a limited run series with like 10-hour-long episodes. Yeah. And it like really follows like Batman and Gordon. Like the main plot is Batman and Gordon are just figuring out crimes together.
Right. Like, well, I mean, so how did you feel about that, right? How did you feel about that writing of the Batman Gordon dynamic? Because it felt like this really cool buddy cop, but with no comedy. It was just like, how did you feel about it? Because
like Gordon specifically will occasionally just throw out a joke here and there, but like not like an in your face joke, but just an offhand comment.
Right.
Yeah. Dude. Perfect.
No guns. No guns. No, man, that's your thing.
Right.
The
so good.
Gordon in the animated series, like that's what it felt like, especially like even all the Gotham PD people, like they felt like they were Gotham PD in the animated series, just come to life, even in their voices too.
The casting for Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, Gordon,
100% perfect.
Flawless, dude. Like Gary Oldman did a great job, and I love his performance, and I've got no critiques. I think he's excellent. This version of Gordon, it's also perfect, and I have no critiques. And I love that it is different. It's different, but it's still so good. It's still so good. I love when he calls Batman man. It's just like, he's like, come on,
two guys
man.
being guys.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of like the bros a little bit. Not you two. Just
a man and the Batman just like looks at him. Dude, that scene is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Good.
When
it's so good.
Batman wakes up in the fucking headquarters. It's like just the imagery of them like holding him back and like, okay, what are you gonna do? You know?
I mean, but think about like, if you think about it from mythological standpoint, right? The mythology of Batman, the myth of this guy, you have almost the entire half of the force in the room with him because they don't know what he's going to do if he wakes up. Like that's kind of wild to think about. Like you needed everybody in this cell with him. Like that's kind of crazy to think about.
Of that, right after that, Gordon wants the room himself.
Right.
Like that shows their dynamic right there. And Gordon just walks up and gets up in his face, but then just hands him the keys secretly.
I need you to punch me. I need you to make it look good.
That speaks of his character too.
Right.
Totally.
Next time, pull your punches. He's like, I did.
I was like,
So Batman.
It's so Batman.
Such Batman.
I
Wow.
mean, so the other part of that was some of the stuff that I saw in the ability to not say anything, but it said everything. The moment when Bruce saw the son sitting there in the house and he did nothing and just looked at him because he understood what that kid's pain is. Like it was like it almost took him back, but he just sat with him in that moment. Was so powerful. And then Bruce did it in the funeral. It was just it was like it's
my favorite part about that dynamic is not just Batman seeing the kid and having that moment, but Alfred seeing it through Batman's eyes, through the contact lens.
Yes.
Right.
Like
He
we
knows.
don't get that with anyone else or in any
Right.
other, movie that I've ever seen with
Right.
Batman in it. It's always from, Bruce's perspective and, that emotional connection, but we've never gotten, Alfred's side of how like imagine raising a young Bruce after his parents had died, or just anyone in general, like raising an orphan, and you don't know how to like bridge that gap of, am I the butler or am I going to step in as a father, but I'm not equipped to be a father, you know, like how
I mean, from
that kind of
the artistic nature of that moment though almost shows what Alfred was, how he was looking at Bruce when Bruce went through that. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like this is
the duality.
It's so powerful. Like that whole sequence is so crazy. There was no dialogue, bro. It was just imagery.
That I got to be honest, like that moment probably made me the most emotional out of the entire film, and he didn't have to say a single damn word. Just looking, you see Bruce at either time he did it, just looking at the kid, and you could just tell he's like, I feel for you so much because I know how you feel. You're me. I'm you.
Right.
I know. I am the product of what you could become because of this happening to you. And there's something like all of that communicated through just the eyes. And Pattinson did that this entire movie. He did that the entire movie where he's communicating so much just through his look. He doesn't need to say a damn word. Guy's like, hey, what are you doing here? And he just turns and looks at him. And you know that look means get the fuck out of here before I whoop your ass. And then you see that Catwoman looks at him and he gives her a look, and it's a completely different emotional resonance from that.
Right.
But back to the kid, that moment right there, that was the moment that I said in my head, this is how we get Robin. Because he's going to see the next time he watches that happen to another kid, he is going to be more whenever down the road they decide to have this take place, either in the next movie or the one after that, you're going to see him see that kid after his parents were just killed, and he's going to say, I think I can help this kid. I can help this kid not fall into the same traps that I fell in. That the pain, does it ever go away? It will for you. And we're going to get that. And that moment just hit me like a fucking freight train. I was like, Matt Reeves, you get me, bro.
Daddy Reeves.
Daddy Reeves.
Dude, that moment, you know what it reminds me of? The shot where Alfred is looking at the screen, seeing Bruce through that contact lens, that security footage, looking at the kid, reminds me of this moment that I was just at a family reunion last week, and so I'm looking at a picture of like young me and my little cousins in like this old family photo, and I have a certain feeling. Then I look at my mom looking at that photo, and that is a completely different feeling, something that I've never thought of or felt before, just because I remember being younger, my mom looking at me, that's one kind of look, but then watching her looking at another photo of young us is a completely different feeling. And that's what that shot of Alfred looking at that photo felt like to me.
Yeah.
which is something, I've never felt in a
I could see
Batman
that.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note that the only times that Bruce actually interacted with the kid,
Yeah.
he saved him both times.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he physically, like, it was the bomb moment where, like, or the car driving through, he saved him at the funeral. And then he also, like, reached out and, like, gave him a hand at the finale when they were in the city hall, or the stadium, I guess. The stadium.
Gotham Square Garden.
Right.
Gotham Square Garden. Now, to further feed fuel onto the fire for your theory, Danny, I think it's important to also remember the only other thing that we see about this kid, because the kid, obviously, we see most of the time he's grieving the loss of his father, right? He's dressed up as a ninja,
right,
for his Halloween costume, and he's doing sword stuff,
right?
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, is it a subtle wink and a nod? Is it a little bit of foreshadowing that that's where Matt Reeves wants to take it? I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's a nice little bit where it's like, even though, once again, the next Robin would be Dick, right? What if it's not? You know what I mean? What if
Then I would say that Matt Reeves, you have failed me, and you don't understand the characters as much as I thought you did.
Yeah, fundamentally.
Do not fucking screw us on Robin again. I swear to God.
I mean,
I can't. My heart can't take it. My heart can't take it.
You know what I think, though? Like, I think that's something that I really enjoyed about it is again, like, to me, like, that could have just been something. It could be him foreshadowing with that particular character. I'm not really sure, but it just, to me, once the movie was done, I didn't feel like they were trying to bait for a sequel. It was like, it just seemed like cool. Like, the only things that we know for a fact is Penguin's still there, right? Penguin's there. And holy shit, we'll talk about that in a second, because Penguin's, we'll get to that in a little bit.
We'll get to Oz.
We'll get to Oz for sure.
But I take it easy, sweetheart.
I think one of the moments for me that was really interesting was actually Selena Kyle's story. The whole Falcone scenario of, like, you being like this illegitimate kid of him not really knowing, and you've been playing the long game, like, I'm gonna get this motherfucker. Like, I've just been waiting, and it's about time based on what you did to my friend. Like, it's time. I just thought that was just really interesting. Did you guys like what they did with Selena? Because I know in the community there's kind of like people that really like it and others that really don't. So how do you guys feel her character was written?
I love it.
It's the best Catwoman interpretation I've seen. I mean, you just think about it pound for pound, especially what you're comparing it to the previous versions of the character. This version not only looks the closest to what I imagine she looks like in the comic books, she behaves like that, and her costume with the come on, man, with the ski mask that looks with the cat. Come on, dude, man, bro. That is inspired.
First time you see that in that teaser, oh my God, I'm like, yep, this is it.
Inspired costume design, because it's brilliant, because it's not just like, again, I was before the show started, I was complaining about my thing about Catwoman interpretations is I hate it when she does too many of the cat puns, like what we've seen in Justice, where it's like, darling, perfect, Titty's got claws. It's too much for me, and I don't like it gets too cheesy at points, and her version of Selena was so grounded and so.
I know someone like that.
Right.
It felt like you know someone like that, which that's how you make a character feel real.
Right. A real person.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, like, showing, like, it's almost like because she felt like she's been cheated her whole life, she has this get back in her. Like, no, I'm gonna get mine. And I think that's what, to me, fuels her to become Catwoman. It's like, that's like at the root of her essence is, I've been slighted. I've been, pushed to the side. My father acted like I wasn't even his and just said, nope, next. Like, I don't even need you. Like, so to me, it's like her, wanting to become a cat burglar seems like, well, I'm just going to take it. Like, If nobody wants to respect me and give me what I'm due, then I'm gonna take it. So to me, I loved that aspect of her. It just seemed, like you said, it seemed real.
Yeah, and that scene
combat was badass.
Yeah. That scene inside of her apartment with Batman in there the first time, what did he say? No, you got a lot of cats. And she's like, I got a thing about strays.
Right.
And like, you can take that as a, offhand joke or a little funny haha moment, but like, damn, she really does have a thing about strays.
Right.
Because of her whole story.
Her whole story.
Yeah.
She's a stray.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
But it's
She's got a
almost,
heart for 'em.
but I mean, if you look at it from a perspective of how they wrote it, it was essentially a story about 3 orphans.
Yeah. 3 orphans who approach life completely differently.
Like, that's literally what this movie was about. It was 3 orphans, and again, like how they all went around what happened. Like, it's so brilliant. Oh my God. The more I talk
How
about
their
this,
environments shaped them.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thing about how the environments shaped each of these orphans and what path each of them decided to take.
Yeah. And all of them came up in the same city.
Yeah. Same city. Yeah.
Different
Same
walks
city,
of
just
life.
completely different things. Yeah.
Yeah. Zoe was amazing. And if I know it's still rumored that there's going to be a Catwoman HBO Max show, I really hope they follow through with it, because I would watch the shit out of a show with her just freaking catting around Bloodhaven. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm into it.
Well, I mean, because we had talked about this before, and obviously we'll get into speculation later, but you had said before, like, if they decided they wanted to do, instead of a DCEU universe, just focus on Batman's universe, like with
GCU, Gotham City universe.
Right. But I mean, there's so much in it to where, like, you're in Bloodhaven. There's so much that happens in Bloodhaven. You know what I'm saying? So having shows that, very similar to like how Marvel has shows that are, a part of the overall universe, but they're still telling parts of the story with certain characters. It's a great way to expound upon Selina and other characters that may be in Bloodhaven without needing movies to do it. And now it feels like we're at this golden age of TV because of streaming, where they're just throwing movie budgets at TV shows and casting that level of an actor to be in it. I mean, is pretty exciting to think about. As far as the antagonist goes, how do you feel they wrote the Riddler? Because I honestly think this might be my favorite villain that I've ever seen in a DC movie. How do you guys feel about the Riddler? What's going on? How y'all feeling?
What do you think, Ian?
Well, I mean, I kind of put my opinion out there a little earlier. The Riddler, on paper, if you were to tell me that, you got this very realistic, very textured Batman story where we're going to be taking a deeper dive into the character. The Riddler works when you think conceptually what the Riddler can pull out of Batman, psychologically speaking.
Right.
But also, once again, kind of like with what Danny was saying about Catwoman in previous iterations, right? Like, a Catwoman who is more a cartoon character would not work in this world, and that's why Zoe Kravitz's performance just really shines in the way that once again Reeves wrote her, but then also the way that she performed her. Like, she brought her to life in a way that was completely plausible and believable. And I think that the Riddler, once again, is another character that I was sweating up until we first saw the very first images. And we saw him kind of like with the duct tape look and the really heavy the head coverings and stuff like that. So I think they nailed exactly what they needed to. I think that he was an incredibly interesting version of the character, a very modern version of the character. But also, once again, like, encapsulating the idea of like his riddles also being, once again, riddles that were literal, but then also ciphers. I thought was really cool. And
ciphers, I love the cipher aspect of it. I love that aspect of it. Adore it.
Yeah. And it became something really cool that unfolded in interesting ways. His motivations were clear and interesting. and as they unfolded, you know what I mean? Like I've had some talks where, you know, people have disagreed with how the finale kind of wraps up where he floods the city. And I have to say, like, it was, in my opinion, absolutely apt based on what his entire motivation was, which was not only exposing the truth,
right,
but cleansing the city.
right.
And I thought that was exactly the way that a character who is willing to go the distance, willing to literally kill somebody, willing to literally go to Arkham, you know, and not have an escape plan. Like, he wanted to be there because he wanted to be able to watch it all burn and
he wanted to storm the Capitol.
Basically. And I have a slight theory that that's probably also, aside from, once again, not competing with Spider-Man, but I think also that could have been a reason why we had the long pushback. Is I think they wanted a distance from the insurrection element, even though that was like last year and all this other stuff. Like, I think it's still pretty raw for a lot of people. So I think that was pretty interesting. And it I will say that, like, the finale of this film, where he has all the other ones, you know, doing his work, basically, that was intense. Yeah. Like, it was really, really real, really, really alarming in that way, but brilliant. And then also, when that one that Batman, you know, kind of savagely gives the work to, when he's like, "I'm vengeance."
Bro, so and the realization
you saw it.
of
you saw
him,
it
like,
over his face.
Like,
yeah,
he's me. Like, bro, it's it's so good.
Yeah. The problem is in me and not the thing I'm fighting.
Oh,
right. Yeah. Yep.
And even in that whole scene was literally Batman going, like, went from being vengeance to truly becoming a hero and being a literal beacon of light for the people to follow and to see that Batman isn't just a hero who works in the shadows. He was out there during the day. The only time you see him during the day, I think, in the entire movie. Which, again, for me, like, I was so hyped in that moment because I was like, as soon as Batman jumps in, starts whooping those guys' asses on top of the Madison Square Garden,
jumps down.
I was literally just like, I jumped out of my seat and was just like, literally just in my head going, "That's right, Batman, save your fucking city." Like, don't just beat the crap out of villains. That's not all that this is about for you. This is about again, the being the symbol, being the beacon. And it was just such a fucking amazing payoff for the entire movie that just felt like we I don't know. I feel like we ran the gamut of Batman. Like, we touched on a lot of, like, the emotional cornerstones that make him who he is. Really phenomenal. And I think, like, the Joker being sort of the antithesis of Batman in many ways. Riddlers, sorry. The Riddler being the antithesis of Batman physically in many ways. But and, like, the thing I love is that Batman, he lost at the end.
He lost.
The city got blowed up. Like, and when Riddler was like, "You didn't figure it out," like, I thought you were gonna figure it out. And that's like, that was that thing where I was like, good. I'm glad that Batman didn't, like, he nailed all the riddles, but he could not nail that one. He could not nail the one that mattered.
Well, you know,
and I think that, again, shows that vulnerability that the character has. He's not a god, at least not yet. You know?
Not
well,
yet.
and he's also young in his career. You know what I mean? Like, that was the one element that he just couldn't see coming. And I think that what was excellent about this movie, Danny, and that's exactly right, like, the fact that his plan still went through. There are so many of these Batman movies where, like, he pulls off, like, once again, The Dark Knight Rises, for instance, right? He pulls off a miracle move in the 11th hour that is impossible, and it works, and it's whatever, you know what I mean? Like, he saves the day, and it's like, but this one, like, I loved it because I was like, yes, like, you can't be like, he said it at the beginning of the movie, "I'm only one man," and he had 7 vans ready to go off. So like, as soon as he pulled up the carpet and then hit the, you know, real change into the password, suddenly like you could just see it over his face. Like he's just like, oh, he checkmated me.
Right.
Like
well,
everything.
Well, I think that's the dope part about it, right? Because like when you're the Riddler, I think it was one of those moments when he went to see him, right? Once he was locked up and he requested him. Again, we find out later that he thinks he's there because they are in agreement, right? But then they're like, oh, we're in agreement. We understand that this city needs to be cleansed. It needs to, you know, it's corrupted and blah blah. And when he starts saying Bruce, that like the like, bro, this is how crazy this was, right? Because the bomb goes off, right? And on the back it says to Batman. So in my head, I'm like, he knows he's Batman. He's here to kill him. That's what I thought it was. Like he turns around to Batman. Boom. That's what I thought it was, right? And then when you see him in there and he's like, Bruce, and he's talking to him, and I was like, he knows he's Batman. But then afterwards, and he's like, we missed him. We couldn't get him. And I was like, and you see Batman snap out of it. He snaps out of it like, oh, he didn't figure me out. So it was like,
thank goodness I didn't say anything.
So, but it was one of those. But
that's why Batman doesn't say anything. He's straight face, poker face all the time.
But it was so wild to me where it was like that moment of him thinking he won. Batman thinks, okay, he didn't figure me out. And then he finds out like there was more to this. Like I loved it because it again tied into that later part of him, because he was so focused on the vengeance side of things. He was so one-dimensional as Batman. You had the mayor that just got elected saying like you've been like, we need Bruce, like we need your help. We need Bruce's help. We, you know, it can't just be, you know, the Batman doing it. Like you have to take both sides of this. It was just one of those other things of like, damn, I can't just do this as Batman. Like there's things that Bruce can do that Batman can't. And it just, I don't know, it just seemed really interesting to me that moment I was like really caught off guard because it okie doked me in the theater. And I was just like, I was like, hold on. So he doesn't know he's Bruce? I was freaking out, bro.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. I think everyone saw that in the same way. I mean, obviously, once again, like the big indicator was that it was a flame protected envelope for to the Batman, right, in the one that was at Wayne Manor. So the idea is that if it blew up, right, and killed Bruce Wayne, then the Batman would find the corpse and the letter, right, you know what I mean, and kind of go on from there. But yes, like that moment, the whole Riddler monologue, where he's basically unfurling his plan to kind of like just revel in it with who he thinks is a fellow compatriot in this crusade, and like once again says Bruce, and like kind of like really goes into it, and you're like everyone in the theater, like we're all like, but how did he figure it out? Like everyone is kind of like rolling through, like they're like, wait, did it happen off? Wait, where was it? Where did it happen? And then he's just like, yeah, like almost got him though, right, man?
The one that got away.
So close.
Yeah. It was such an incredible moment. Like you felt the whole tone change of everything. It was great. It was really great.
Yeah.
So artful and so methodical and so deliberate. I think that, I'm seeing that there's a lot of people who love this movie and there's some people who don't. And I think this is one of those movies that people are going to like, especially the farther we get away from it, people are going to be like, oh, that movie was a masterpiece. And that is a perfect superhero film. And that, like, again, kind of like how Spider-Verse didn't perform well in theaters, but now everybody acknowledges that it's equally like one of the best superheroes.
Comic book movie.
Definitely up there. Definitely top 5 ever made.
That's incredible.
Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is one of those movies where you will watch it differently depending on where you are in life. That makes sense. And so maybe down the line people watch it again, and even us, like, we'll watch it again later on, like years from now, and be like, I didn't get that before.
Right. It also feels like a movie that when the sequel comes out and like as more iterations come out, like it started, especially because Matt Reeves is going to be at the head of all of those, and like that's what's important is that Matt Reeves stays the guy. Like he needs to, as long as he stays the guy on this, like we're going to see this universe really turn into something special.
Right.
And I think as this continues to develop, people are going to start seeing like, oh, this is actually really special, and this is something that really Marvel. Like DC has been trying to play catch up with Marvel for a decade now, and this is the first real time I think you have something on your hands that is equivalent in value to the MCU. Right. And as soon as it starts getting fleshed out and developed more, it really can stand as a thing that is like, yeah, it is like artful, methodical superhero films that are unlike anything else that's on the board right now. I mean, The Dark Knight like laid the foundation for this movie to truly become, I think, took the concept and then cranked it up to 11 and said, this is where we can take it. And you can you can color within the lines. You don't need to name Robin John Blake and then have his real name be Robin. You could just have a Dick Grayson. Like this is the world where that's okay. Because it's built in a way that makes sense. It's I can't say enough about it. I fucking love this movie, man.
I mean, I wanna switch gears because I think one of the big things about this film was obviously the aesthetic of the film, which was another major component to how good it was. Jer, like cinematography and lighting. Yeah. Like you're amazing at what you do, and you see movies in a manner that I know I don't. Like visually, like what the lens, what the cinematographer and director are actually trying to tell in a frame. Yeah. How did this movie feel to you from a cinematography and lighting standpoint?
Well, it was a masterclass for me, just watching masters at work. But I think the most important thing that I took from this movie and the cinematography is that it represented a feeling and not a look. Does that make sense? Like this movie, and this is something that's, I feel like every cinematographer is in constant pursuit of their entire careers, is that how do you surpass the line between making something look good versus making something feeling good? Like that feels like the truth, the sense of truth. And this is something that I kind of, and going back to like different stages of your life, I remember hearing this from my mentor David Waldman in school, and I was like, that's interesting, where every decision you make on a movie when you're making a movie is following your compass, and wherever your true north is where you tend to follow when you're making decisions that would change the look or change the feel or change the story or something like that. And as you get older and the more life experience you have, that sense of truth changes, that your true north on your compass kind of floats around a bit, and you kind of refine it a little more, where you're you get to a point of comfortability in your career, you're a level of mastery, one would say, that you're that you already know where your compass is pointing. You don't need to look at the compass anymore when you make decisions, and that you're just trying to capture a feeling now when you're doing something, not trying to aim for a look, if that makes sense.
It's
and
like
to
instinctive.
Me, yeah, it's instinctive. But when you're watching something, like people tend to get really in the weeds about all the really technical stuff, but that's not the point of the cinematography. Like the technical stuff and the tools and stuff like that, like that's all the base learning how to drive, and now you're deciding where you want to drive. And this movie to me felt like encapsulated a feeling in the cinematography that not a lot of other movies do, in a way that this movie, for example, this movie felt like how I remember feeling walking in the rain, looking through my glasses. 'Cause I've worn glasses my whole life. And so when, seeing through glasses while it's raining outside at night, completely different look.
Right, for sure.
And the way you see things looks completely different. And
Right.
that's what this movie felt like to me. And it's not that, it looks like you're looking through wet glass while it's raining. It looks like how I remember seeing the world as I'm walking down the street alone at 3 a.m. While it's raining, and what you felt in that moment. And so it's like, when you're creating images, moving images in film, you're just trying to capture a feeling. You're trying to convey to the audience a feeling as they're watching it. And that's why, like, some movies, for some people, they connect more with, because when they watch those moving images, it's almost like watching memories play back in your memory bank.
Right.
And so for me, watching this movie is almost like playing back, rewind from, like taking out my memories on a disc and plugging into a TV and watching it like that. And you're not just watching memories, you're feeling those memories.
Right.
If it makes sense.
No, for sure. I think that's like, I mean, some of the visuals from it, we were talking about it earlier, like there's sometimes we see dark imagery, right? Where it's like, oh, it's dark in here. But it was dark in a way that I can't explain. One, because I'm not a master at that, but I'm just like, this does not feel like, oh, we just turned the lights off in here.
Oh no,
you know what I'm saying? Like
that's a Solo.
Right. That's exactly. Like it
Solo is just a dark ass movie where you have trouble separating the foreground, what you're supposed to be looking at, from like the subject from the background,
right?
Which just feels a little too dark.
It didn't capture the right feeling.
No, but then you look at this movie, and I think I kept talking about, like, it's layers of black, it's textures of black, and the again, take it back to Batman the Animated Series, which I don't have no confirmation on this. I haven't heard Matt Reeves say it, but I feel like he's inspired by Batman the Animated Series in a lot of ways. At least in some aspects, he took a lot of creative like inspiration from that show,
right?
Because well, obviously the red motif being there, but specifically in that, it felt to me that almost every single image felt like it was deeply rooted in black, and the blacks were deep and they were layered, and it feels almost like and from a directorial perspective, not from a cinematography perspective, but in a way that you would try to communicate this idea. You would want to, like in Batman the Animated Series, they used black paper and then they built up from that. They added the color, the lights from there, but the foundation was black. It almost feels like they wanted to do a filmic version of that, a live action interpretation of that very concept of, I want it to feel like the foundational color is deeply rooted in the blacks, but you're shooting a man dressed in all black in a city at night in front of all black production design, with dark streets and rain, and everybody is wearing black, from their normal clothing to like their actual superhero costumes. Everybody's wearing black, but yet they found a way to constantly separate the characters, and so you always know where you're supposed to be looking at any given time. And that, to me, I was looking at the entire time. It just absolutely floored at the level of depth when everything is fucking black. Like, I feel like I've never seen that before.
And what I'm about to talk about is just my theories and based on what I've seen, but it seems to me, Batman Animated Series, they animate it on black paper. And when, if any artists out there are graphics designers, and, like, you're looking at a Pantone of all the different, shades of black, right? And there's like so many different minute shades of black. And the differences in them, no matter what your chroma value is, the color depth, when you're looking at values in a dark image, you're not just like dimming the lights in film and then you're making it dark, but like you're trying to separate what are the different zones of color, and how does it represent, or how does it contrast with each other to give you that separation? So it's not like, oh, Batman's suit is dark in this scene, like sitting at fucking 15 IRE on the vector or on the waveform, but it's the depth of the color in the tone of the suit versus the thing that he's standing next to, like a concrete wall that's also at that 15 level IRE, but the depth of that color is like somewhere else on the vector scope, and it contrasts with the different layers. Similar to how when if you've ever had to paint walls in your house, just ever slight different undertones in that shade, in that luma value, can give you a completely different effect.
I think that was the thing that I was noticing was like the opening scene is a perfect example. Like he comes out of the darkness, but you see the boot. And the boot is black. Like it's like you're just like
stepping on dark concrete.
Right. But it didn't have that heavy contrast look when he comes out. Some things are like, all right, cool, we'll
Oh, so here's another thing that I was talking to Danny about the night that we got out of the movie, is that one of my favorite things about Batman coming out of the shadows in this movie is something that I haven't seen in any other iterations of Batman, where when you're even in animation, like when you animate or you show some character walking out of darkness, people love to have them walk out into a light of light.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like
hard light source.
Hard light source. And so you go from black, little fade in, and then you step into the light. Now you're having all those shadows. Every time Batman walks out from the shadows in any of these shots, especially in the intro, like he is fading into the light. As he's coming out, he never walks out into a hard cut of light. He fades in, and that shot holds every time to allow the audience's eyes to adjust from pure black, whatever the shadows are, whatever that black level is, which isn't zero, by the way. All the shadows are slightly lifted to give you the effect of you're watching a painting. There's no like true black in any of this movie. But starting from whatever the baseline of that shadow in that shot is, as Batman walks in, every undertone of his suit and every spot of detail starts coming up on the waveform. Like it starts ever so slightly fading in. You're basically doing an in real life fade in as he's walking in from dark into the light.
It felt like if you were top down on the ocean and you were watching something come up to the surface is what it feels like seeing him come out of shadow. It's like,
and you can't do that with a hard cut of light. You can only do that with soft light, and as it comes in, the values are being brought up.
But the light's only bright enough to show the difference in black. It's not like you saw like, oh, there's a light under in this train station. Like the train station felt like it wasn't lit. It was only lit by the surrounding city. You know what I'm saying? It's just too good. It's too good.
An absolute this film, and I gotta say, this is gonna be a hot take for some people, but this is on a technical level an absolute masterclass, a masterpiece, objectively, not an opinion. That is a fact. You look at the people who worked on Greg Fraser. This motherfucker is on fire, setting the look for Star Wars, Dune, Batman. This guy is tearing it up right
now.
The
way Star Wars looks today, in like modern Star Wars looks in any movie show, is based off of what he did in Rogue One. Like,
well, so here's really quick. I have to say this. I have to say this because in that, I talked to Tyrone Magnus literally 2 days ago about this, and this is I said the same thing. I was like, how they treated Batman in this movie was reminiscent to how they treated Darth Vader in Rogue One. Like when he came out and it was like that horror film vibe when he would when he was fighting them on, like when Batman showed up, he started fighting
now.
Like you just felt like, oh my God, like it just had this horror nature to it, even though it wasn't like when they were in that shot where the machine guns were going off and he's just in there just taking them out. Holy crap, bro. Like, just off of the muzzle, like, come on, bro. Oh my God.
That was their intention too.
Bro.
So here's another thing I noticed while watching the movie is that Batman's suit, and this is also a feather in the cap of mastery in all aspects of production here. Batman's costume, every single material has texture to it.
Right.
That's how you create. That's how to create contrast when you have incidents of light, like reflecting off of surfaces.
Right.
That gives you contrast. But on another level, on color side, his suit has very warm undertones, and so I noticed a lot of the lighting that falls on his suit are warm lights. Yeah, and if anything about lighting and movie lighting and stuff like that, film lights, any lighting really, you can measure its spectrum that it fills out in I think it's called SSI. You're measuring its SSI scale, and you see, like, for example, sunlight is pretty even across all spectrums from ultraviolet into the blue range, right? And red and so on. And there's a spike in the high end on the Kelvin scale, but every light has its own little curve, and there are dips and spikes in different wavelengths of light. And so most of the lighting that falls on him, on Batman's suit specifically, is heavy on the red end, on the warm end of the scale. And so the light that gets reflected off of his suit is more warm in tone versus the stuff that he's put in front of, like the concrete walls reflect more blue light. And so that creates color contrast. Even though they're both black and dark, they create contrast because one side is warmer than the other. And it's just the attention to detail and production design and costume design. And
crazy.
It doesn't matter if you like the suit or not. The fact that the costume makers chose that kind of tone for that material to absorb certain frequencies of light versus whatever production design has around him specifically to absorb different wavelengths of light. What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What? I think this still goes back to, I think this all, like every aspect of this movie, like the synchronicity of everything, like always goes back to the same vanishing point that is Matt Reeves. Like, it seems like in every facet, every department, he deliberately knew exactly what he wanted to do with this movie in terms of the writing, the acting, the visual aesthetic, like the costume design, the production design, because that costume, like, it catches so many shadows, even the tiny cuts and indentations and imperfections on the cowl, which I wasn't really 100% sold on the first time I saw it, but like seeing it in the movie, I'm like, yeah, no, that
looks really good in motion.
Awesome.
It looks really good in motion.
Really good.
I was in the same boat. I was like, I don't know how it looks in still images, but seeing it move in him, I was like, oh yeah, this. Oh
my god,
this is a good decision.
When he walks into the mayor's house after that crime scene, and all the cops are just looking at him, dude, he's like straight a foot taller than everyone else, and they're all just looking at him.
Yeah, that was
so good.
It was shot so well. I mean, going off of that, like, Danny, like the direction in this movie, right? Like the directing and even his ability to get the actors to get the performances that he was desiring. Like, you being a director, like how did you feel about the direction?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't want to presume to think that I am on the level to diagnose what Matt Reeves is doing, because I really do. And I've been saying it for a long time, even prior to him being on this movie, that Matt Reeves is underrated as hell and one of the best directors in Hollywood. This guy has so much vision that you watch the Planet of the Apes movies and you're like, these should be stupid.
Yeah.
You know, these should be ridiculous, but they're not.
Right.
And in every single way in those movies, I remember we were working on Nightwing, the series. Actually, we were sitting in the editing bay, and it was Jeremy and Adam Zielinski, the director, working on the color grade. And I was just, I was there. We were, there to give feedback, do whatever I was there to help do in the moment. And while they were working, troubleshooting something, one of the many issues in post-production that we ran into, Adam put on Rise of the Planet of the Apes on his TV while they were working. And I watched the whole thing while they were finishing the color grade. And I was like, yo, this movie was awesome. And that same day, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes came out. So as soon as we finished color grading, we went to see Dawn in theaters. And I was like, dude, I thought Rise was good. Dawn, on a completely different level, because that's when Matt Reeves came in.
Right.
And
dude, I remember in that room, you were watching Rise in the room, watching on TV, and me and Adam were just working on the computer, we're focused, and then the moment comes in when Caesar said, spoiler alert,
Right.
I guess, says no, shouts no for the first time.
No.
Like both Adam and I knew the moment was coming up, so we just stopped. Like we stopped what we were doing and just kind of looked over at you, waiting for your reaction. And when that happened, your jaw just dropped, and we were like, yes. That's cinema.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, we were not planning on seeing that movie.
Oh no,
we were working, and we were just like, dude, we need to go see this movie right now. And that was the moment where I was like, Matt, and Cloverfield was the first movie I saw of his, and I was obsessed with that movie when I was in high school. Obsessed with that movie, and like Matt Reeves is just such a brilliant and deliberate and methodical director who understands visual effects. He understands cinematography. He understands acting. He made us care about a goddamn ape that literally was fighting against humans. He invested us in effectively going against our own species, going against the interests of our own species, and saying, like, yeah, I mean, they kind of deserve it. I mean, go Caesar.
Yeah.
Like, Hail Caesar.
And they won't.
And that is the kind of genius and talent that this guy brings to the table. And honestly, I knew he was going to do an amazing job, and it makes my heart sing to see that he succeeded. And that's someone who is as deep and passionate of a Batman fan as us, went in there and was able to make his movie and tell the story and be able to build this universe and this world in the way that he believes that it should be. And frankly, I think it is currently one of the most authentic iterations of Batman we've gotten.
One of my favorite things about his direction is that most people they'll rate a director off of the merit of the film itself, like how they like the movie, but it coming from a filmmaker's perspective, like, can you imagine working in the studio system and being able to see your vision all the way through like that?
Right.
Like, you think that it's easy, from an audience member who doesn't know how filmmaking works and just, critiques everything all the time.
Right.
But you don't know how actually, like, even on your own projects, how hard it is to see your original vision through to the end and have it, be what
even when you have creative freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, there's so many things outside of your control that could go wrong.
For sure.
And yet this is an example of, a director seeing their vision all the way through to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what else to say. Like, do you know how many lives a director is responsible for? How many livelihoods? How many careers they're responsible for?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't do film, you don't know.
Right.
Like, the pressure you're under to handle $200-300 million and have it, come back in investment.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's huge.
Even just on a small scale, scale that we've worked on, is like, when you succeed as the director, then you're the hero. They'll hold you up and everybody will lift you on their shoulders and sing your praises from the mountaintops. But if you fail, and if the movie fails, it's no one's fault but yours. It is your fault.
Facts.
If you're the director, you're the captain of the ship. The buck stops with you. You're either the hero or the fucking villain.
Yeah.
And
I think the crazy
thing, that's the pressure, especially when you're dealing with a $300 million blockbuster with an IP as legendary as Batman. Right. Like, the pressure's on, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the other part of it too. Like, nobody goes out to say, I'm gonna make the worst movie ever. Like, nobody's
nobody's Sandler.
I was gonna say, I mean, debatably.
Nobody's really out doing that, especially
no one wants that either. Like, especially crew members who work on the movie.
Exactly.
Like,
so I think
no one wants to do a bad job.
I think with this though, because a couple of things, when I came out the theater, I was like, how did WB let them do this? Like, that was the first thing that went through my head. I was like, I don't know if it was just, and maybe it could have been because of what happened with Zack Snyder. It was like, look, maybe we just don't fuck with it and let him tell the story he wants to fucking tell.
Well, they were pursuing him for a while.
Yeah.
And he kept saying no. He said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make a movie within your cinematic universe. I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
And they kept saying, well, please, please do it. What do we have to do to get you to do it?
Yeah.
And he's like, let me just do it from scratch. Let me make my own shit.
Right.
And then they were like, no. Well, no,
Yeah, 'cause they-
no first.
Yeah.
And then
he's like, all right.
He was like, okay, fine. You're the one who needs me. So you walked away.
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine. Just kidding.
Boss.
I mean, but
boss.
Damn.
but I think that's the beautiful thing about it, though. It's like, I think you had pointed out earlier, Jared, like when you can see that actually happen of like, because like you said, nobody really understands like what could go wrong on a set. Certain things you may have planned out, certain shots or whatever may not turn out the way you thought they were going to turn out. So, and obviously, you have those reshoots and stuff like that for that, but
dude, this guy dealt with COVID halfway through his movie. I mean, they weren't even halfway done shooting.
Right.
And they had to stop like 2 or 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you? My God.
It's unreal. It's unreal.
You cannot imagine what the production office looked like.
Yeah.
For that movie.
I mean, because like you're looking at, look, as far as like the acting, him directing these actors that, to be honest, like the standout for me, to be honest, was Riddler and Colin Farrell's fucking Penguin. Holy shit. I was so amazed. Like, I know that Colin Farrell's a good actor.
Sure.
But I was just not.
He's a great actor.
But again, I hadn't.
Underrated, some could say.
Well, again, to me, like nothing that I can't remember a movie where I'm like, ooh, Colin Farrell. Like, I just can't. And seeing this movie, I was like, holy shit. Like, he is so dialed. Like, so dialed into this character where he's the Penguin. Like obviously they wrote him into being like, I'm waiting for my moment to just take over, right? Like that's kind of how his character is anyways. But he's so in this character, you just believe it 100%.
The makeup. I think
his voice.
I honestly think they'll get the Oscar for makeup.
Oh,
I mean, they transformed Colin Farrell. It was like that was Oswald Cobblepot.
I think it's safe to say, but at least in my opinion, like every technical Oscar category there is, it's gonna be nominated for. Like it's possible.
Yeah.
I feel like if they get snubbed, then it's just indicative of what the place that the Oscars are at.
Right.
Because like. Again, masterful in every department. It's nuts. There's no superhero movie that's on this level, especially if you look at it with somewhat of an experienced eye. You're looking at this like a lot of Marvel movies, even a lot of them are shot on green screen. There's a lot of like visual effects that go into making this movie. This movie, like they're shooting it on they're shooting on a volume wall, and this is like I mean, how many movies have they shot? How many blockbusters have been shot on a volume? Jared, do you know that? That's actually
quite a few already.
Can you actually explain to the viewers that don't know what a volume wall is and give a shot explanation of what in this movie was actually shot on a volume wall?
LED volume is like a multiple sided LED wall room basically that you can throw up whatever images or scenes playing. Like one of the first times it's been done in movies probably is like Oblivion with Tom Cruise. The Sky Tower house that he's in is just surrounded by 8K footage of plates that they shot in Hawaii of like the clouds and the sunsets and sunrises, so they can change the time of day anytime they want in the studio.
Right.
So the next evolution of that is just an LED screen instead of just a projected wall.
Right.
And popularized on The Mandalorian, where a lot of those scenes were shot on volume. And in this movie specifically, I know for sure the scenes when Batman and Catwoman are standing in the abandoned building and the sunset is behind them, like anything that was shot in that building, that sunset is on an LED volume.
Yeah.
Like with some nice compositing happen. And that's not to say this movie didn't shoot on any green screens. Like this, like the visual effects in this movie are so seamless and so well done and well thought out.
Yeah.
They're not just, we'll just shoot this and then we'll pass it off to the VFX and have, movie magic happen. No, like, you need to, it's always like, oh, people who don't understand visual effects be like, oh, I want this shot and that shot, pass it off to VFX guys, movie magic, done. No,
Fix it in post.
You plan it from start to finish, guys.
Right.
Like, you can't just be like, oh,
Yep.
you can fix it in post, or we'll figure it out later. No. Plan from start to fix. That's how you get it that well done.
Fact.
And speaking to, your comment about Marvel movies being shot on green screen, they're all movies are shot on green screen now, but the difference is that, and not to say that, I know exactly what it's like because I haven't been on these sets, but like when Marvel shoots these scenes, even scenes that seemingly shouldn't have to even be shot on green screen, it's almost an insurance, because when you're dealing with that kind of money and that kind of like name actors and franchises and all these contracts and deals and unions, like, you need to cover your ass a lot. And so they'll shoot these scenes and plates of every single setup so that just in case something changes later on in post, or a movie changes or something happens, God forbid, they have to change locations or they change something, they have all the information there.
Right.
But with that being said, there's a lot of caveats to that, because you can't be quite as nuanced as you can if you plan specific shots and setups for that visual effect or for this scene or whatever from top to bottom. You can't get that kind of nuance. But then also on the other hand of that side of that is that the con is that you can't be as flexible later on down the road either. So that also just goes to show that this movie was planned from top to bottom deliberately. Everything that was there was a deliberate decision and not let's fix it like this,
or just landing coverage. It was a lot of guaranteed directed. This is the shot, and this is the performance, this is where we're going.
That's really what I was implying with my comment, is that this was a cohesive vision held by one man that was distributed amongst the team. There was no, or at least, I mean, we won't know what it was like in the room, but visually, optically, from this perspective, after watching this movie, it doesn't look like there was that same corporate touch that you get with some other superhero blockbusters, which again is like how they ensure to the quality and the consistency. And it's like that completely works for those
developed
films.
by committee.
It's developed by committee. And again, like there's some of those movies that are fucking iconic.
Right.
It's a different way of doing it, but the way that this movie was done, again, it feels like an intimate story that was crafted by a director that was allowed to see their vision through from top to bottom. And that sort of oversight, whether it was there or not, it was at least gave their Matt Reeves' team the ability to navigate all of this and be able to, again, seamlessly tie this vision together in a way that I don't know, is just, again, it is special and feels unique and distinctly itself.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean,
film is a.
Go ahead. My bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say, just film is a collaborative sport for everybody in the audience, and so at every level, the more that you're able to include the important players in your team ups, in your game plans, the more you're going to land that cohesive vision, whatever it's going to be. And so, in the case of VFX, speaking on that, making sure that you have, your VFX supervisor or, whoever, obviously, depending on which scale of filmmaking you're at, you know what I mean? It could just be, in the case of like Danny's our VFX supervisor as well as one of our VFX artists, right? But, sometimes it's whoever's going to be your editor is also your VFX guy, right? And typically, a lot of people in the studio system, it's always pre-production, production, and post-production, and they try to keep the houses separate. For a lot of good reasons sometimes. Like there's a lot of reasons to sometimes keep an editor out of production, primarily so they have a completely clear, untouched vision of what was shot.
Right.
And they can create some sort of a new emotional response.
Right.
Because every film evolves basically 3 or 4 times before it's actually complete. And it never stays the same. So, but in this note, just once again, like making sure that you have somebody who's from the post team aware of what's being shot and aware of what is supposed to be delivered during production will save you a lot of headaches. And like Jer also pointed out, though, sometimes it does create a limiting factor, though, because it's like, all right, so we shot it deliberately for this specific look and the specific thing. And if it doesn't work out, you don't really have the ability to kind of improvise in post to try and save it. You may have to do something completely different. So it's not always a surefire way, but the more people
you can do that when you have money for reshoots.
Well, of course, right.
Or
if you have money
you're
or
just
availability.
really fucking good and experienced, and even then it still happens. But like,
Sure.
I mean, the dude worked on Planet of the Apes, which I think gave a very, I mean, that movie was so CG heavy. There wasn't a single real ape to be found.
Why not?
No.
Why not? Why not?
Blows
Just-
my mind still.
Why not?
Dudes in,
Yeah.
yeah.
What the fuck?
Actually,
Yeah.
you know, if they could teach those apes to ride horses, then I could be an actor. You know?
Bro, I love that line from Shang-Chi. It was so good. It was so good. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah.
I think that was the thing too, like seeing, and I think that's why I was saying before, I was so amazed that Warner Brothers let him do it. Like, just say, hey, after all of the gripe of the original Suicide Squad, of it being super dark, them changing it midway, obviously BVS, in the dark nature of the Snyderverse, I was like, how are they're just letting him do this? Like, which was so good, because it, again, like as a filmmaker, being able to say, hey, this is what I want to do. All right, cool. We're going to hire you to do it. And then them saying, but we kind of want to do this with it. And then we think our investors think this might be a better way to go. Or, you know, we've been hearing people like this comedy relief stuff in the Marvel movies. We want to inject some more of that.
Yeah.
And it starts to dilute the idea. It starts to dilute the tone of the film. And in this manner, Jeremy pointed out earlier, there was a couple of quips that Gordon would put in there, but it was still in tone. It wasn't like, here, let me throw a slapstick joke in here. It was like, it was still in tone with his character. It didn't seem like a just joke thrown in here to break up tension. I was
The funniest moment.
I was just blown away by it. I just thought it was awesome that he got to make his own movie.
Yeah, on the topic of the comedy, the funniest moments for me every time was Batman just fucking looking at people, just looking at people, just looking
doing
at people,
his Batman thing,
not acknowledging them. That's why, like, this is one of my favorite, easily by far one of my favorite Batman performances. Like, the way he plays Batman is the way I've always imagined Batman would be: stoic. And he's not going to give you any information that he doesn't have to give you. He's not going to say anything. Even if he likes you, he's not really going to say a whole lot. He's a man of few words. And in those moments, especially when the guy comes in and he's just like, hey, what are you doing here? And he turns and he just looks at him. And the guy's like, okay. You know, like, carry on.
Like, say something. Say something.
I definitely laughed at that.
Say something. That's exactly what that face was. Oh, so good. I mean, okay, so we had touched on it a little bit. The editing and VFX in this movie. You know, I think a lot of times, and Danny, you say this all the time, and I would have to agree with you. The best VFX are the ones that you don't know are VFX. Like the subtle just things you're like, I didn't even know that was a VFX shot. Seeing this movie, how it was cut, put together, do you have any gripes? Do you have any things like, maybe this could have been done better? Or are you just like, I'm loving how it was pieced together?
Like the VFX?
Yeah. VFX
I need to see
editing.
it again, man. I didn't notice any of the damn VFX. And I'm like,
that's
again,
the point.
I was so, which again is like, it doesn't mean that there wasn't any, you know, the VFX that could be viewed, could be kind of seen the seams, but I was so engaged and enthralled that I, even though my eyes instinctively look for those kind of things, I didn't notice a single visual effect that took me out of it and made me go, oof, that one's a little rough. Or
you want to know one of the
CG.
VFX?
What?
The rain in the chase scene. That was a VFX.
Rain in the chase scene? Which chase scene?
The car chase scene. The rain was a VFX shot.
Oh.
All of the rain was VFX?
Jesus
I could see
Christ.
that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can see that. I need to look at it again, but
really solid.
Let that sink in.
Yeah, let that sink in.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think about, bro.
Yeah. Because I was watching an interview. Yeah, Matt was talking about it where he was talking about how they performed that chase scene and yeah, Weta Digital. They're like, well, because they're like, we want to do this. We want to really put the Batmobile through fire.
Right.
And they're like, cool. All right, we'll do that. Right, no problem. And then like they were trying to do all these different things to just get that right look for that he kept calling it like a very French Connection car chase, right?
Yeah, it really was.
It was though.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. But yeah, so to get the rain look though, because they kept trying all these different things. Fraser was trying like different types of like films and stuff like that to try and kind of get it on the lens. So it had a little bit of a dirtiness to it. And yeah, what it was like, no, we'll fucking do it. And it's seamless.
Yeah,
like
I mean, they did it.
You can't tell. Yeah,
dude, digital rain nowadays is insane how real it can look. And also, one of my favorite things about digital rain now is that VFX rain, they make it look like special effects rain, because real rain does not look like that.
Right.
On camera.
You can barely even see
that.
It
looks like it might look like that to you in your mind's eye, but that is not how the camera is capturing rain.
Guys,
and so like rain looks complete. It's like movie explosions too. Like film special effects explosions are way different than actual explosions.
Correct.
They're made to look like, show up well on camera, and that's why digital explosions now have controls that you can make it look like special effects explosions, so that the audience, for some reason, will register as real on screen when they see it in a movie. And so now rain is the next part.
How interesting is that though, to think about, where movies, we assume, mimic real life, but in fact, and a lot of times they don't. Like,
not at all.
A perfect example of just a basic stuff is when people drive. Nobody drives like this, but you do that to show in film that you're driving. Like nobody sits there and goes, hey, so yeah, anyways, like nobody does that, right? You're chilling on the wheel. Like nobody's doing that. And I think rain is one of those things too, where if you've never, I really think if people are film critics, they need to for one time make a short film. Because I think it gives them a perspective of what works, what doesn't work, the process. Because if you think, oh, we're gonna make rain here, all right, cool, let's get some kind of sprinkler, blah blah. Water does not show up on camera the way you think it does. You know what I'm saying? Like it is not just, hey, throw on a sprinkler and we're gonna make rain. It's like,
here's a great example. If anyone in the chat has seen our video Flash versus Quicksilver, during the moment toward the end, right when Flash kind of gets kicked into that wall and right before he goes and does the supersonic punch around the earth, it was definitely raining off and on during that moment. But because we weren't like backlighting the rain, you really couldn't see that it's sprinkling or even the wet ground. Even it was just like, because we weren't paying attention, we weren't focusing on it. I mean, if you go back and watch it now, you might be able to notice. You might be able to see it. But that's what happens when you got no money and you got one day to shoot, and it happens to rain on that day.
Yeah,
the show must go on.
I mean, speaking of that ability to show the realistic stuff, right? We talked about that chase scene, which I am a huge Daniel would say, I'm a huge car fanatic, like huge. Like I love cars, right? And the practical effects that were done in this film, especially during that chase scene, were kind of crazy. Like, and one, how they made the car look, just there was just so many elements of that scene. The jump itself was awesome. Just like, how was it for you guys seeing that? I mean, you guys we just blew up. We flipped a car. We blew up a house on a set. Like seeing these things take place in a movie like this, what was going through your head seeing this?
Well, one thing that I don't think people realize about explosions is that we've done a few now at this point. We just did a couple explosions and flipped a couple cars on this movie we just shot in December. And the thing they don't tell you about explosions is they're really hot. Really hot.
Very.
And it feels like a hot summer day for a split moment where it's like you get
and
too
loud.
close to the oven. Oh my God, so loud. Blew up a couple windows in a building.
Like obviously, explosions are loud, right? And they're hot, right? Because it's a big ball of fire. Yeah, duh. No, you don't really know unless you're actually there, especially when you're there to film it.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to be there to just watch it, like, oh, you're watching a show at Universal Studios or something like that. But no, like you're there to film it, you're there to do a job, you don't expect it. And then, I mean, of course you're expecting it, but you don't know.
Right.
So whatever happens in front of camera or behind camera, that's also news to you too. And so it's like, holy shit. I mean, I heard about it, but I didn't realize,
and you're standing far away. We were far away, man. And you still feel the heat just wash over you for just that split beat. It's great. So all that to say that I don't know, there's something about the tactile, practical nature of, and here's the thing, some of those shots could have been visual effects.
Yeah, some of them could be completely CG, which I'm sure. Actually, no, there are some. We can recall a couple of shots of the Batmobile swerving in between a couple of those trucks, and I'm 90% sure that it was completely CG, just done really well and cut really well with the plate footage. Like, oh man.
Again,
I was going to say, I'll give you one that is confirmed not CGI. And it was also very, very freaking cool. The shot when he says, "I got you," when he's like, the explosion's going off. Colin Farrell was actually that, like, the explosion was really happening behind him. Like, he was full on.
Sick.
Yeah.
Dang, man.
I got you.
Yeah. I got you.
Like, can you imagine?
One take.
Yeah. I mean, the reset for that is like at least a couple hours. And so like you're focused on getting that shot, and you miss, that's it. So good luck.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, that shot in and of itself was awesome.
Dude, the shot at the end. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite things ever. To get both of those things, which I'm starting to think now it's got to be plates, because there's no way that they can rehearse so much to get that timing right, where the car is, or the camera is mounted on the rear bumper of the Batmobile. And so when the Batmobile slides to a stop, it stops at the exact point where you see Penguin's car come flying in from the top right frame. And then rolls. What?
Yeah.
That's got to be a plate. That's got to be two plates and some blending and CG. Like, my God. But
you think it might have been a motion control rig, or
it could be.
Like, how could they have executed that?
So one of the things that they could have done is put the Batmobile on a moving sliding platform that you move cars around with. And so you would have an arm that just swings out and it stops at a certain point, and just have the camera mounted. And then movie magic, you add a little camera shake and then composite the other plate of the other car flying over. Like, oh my God.
This is why I need to see it again. I haven't been able to deconstruct any of that kind of stuff. I was just too giddy.
Yeah, somebody said, I know it's CGI in this film. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman was completely CGI.
Yeah, because there's no way a person can be that perfect.
I mean, I think you're right.
I think some of the other big things in this for me, kind of going into that moment, especially with the car, because again, I was so fixated on this vehicle from the very beginning. And because the opening shots when you see the Batcave, they're teasing it like a character. Do you see it on? He's still finishing the car. The engine is on a rack. It's not even in the car. There's another shot later on in the Batcave where it comes in the Batcave and you see engine parts just laying around. Like, and I was like, oh my God, like when is he gonna use this car? And then when you hear him start this thing up, the sound design in this film is unreal. Like the car sounded incredible.
It screamed.
Screaming
in Dolby Atmos,
bruh. Oh my God.
The frequency that the rumble of the engine plays out when he first turns it on, the entire seat just shook. I'm like, oh my God.
I was like,
dude, my insides shook.
Bro, because like honestly, like I love the sound design through the movie, but I was waiting for the car. Because like, for those that don't know, my first car was a 73 Nova SS. I love American muscle cars. So for me, I'm like, what is this going to sound like? Like, what is it? Yeah. Like, and you saw some clips like, oh, does it have a turbine on it? Like, what's going like, we don't really know what this is going to sound like because we've never heard like this American V8 rumble with a jet engine. Like, we don't know what this is going to sound like. And it was gorgeous. It sounded so good. How did you guys feel?
Doesn't it remind you of the time that you first sat in an SS and turned it on? Oh my God. Oh my God.
I was just like,
are you kidding me?
So like, how did you guys feel about the sound design in this film? Like,
top notch.
Like,
what?
because that was one moment, but that was the icing on the cake for me. Was that moment?
Absolutely.
Because
that was the cherry on top.
The punches sounded
the
so.
Boots?
I was like, oh my God, like, yeah. The sound design was outrageous.
Yeah, incredible, and the sound design of Gotham is incredible. Like it feels like I'm in the city, especially during the opening. You're being surrounded by rain everywhere.
Right.
The sound of the rain weaving in and out of the textures of whatever is showing on screen. Oh my God. Also, going back to the sound design of cars, the bikes. Like anytime you hear and see the bikes. Also, just the fact that you see both Batman and Catwoman on bikes riding together.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was dope.
Yep.
That was it. Definitely. I'm not gonna lie. I know some people may not even like this movie. That end sequence had a biker boys vibe to me. I love that movie. That's like a guilty pleasure of mine. So I was like, this is such a dope moment. But
one final ride.
Yeah. I mean, so like, because like early on, like the things that stood out sound wise to me was the punches, like in the fights. They just sounded so beefy. Danny pointed out the boots, like the chink in the boot, like
heavy,
bro,
armored,
bro.
Yeah. One of my favorite aspects of the sound design and the mix in this movie too, which two completely different things, by the way.
Right.
But the way that the score and the soundtrack are mixed in with the sound design, is perfect in every single scene, and just. It felt like how it would feel, how I imagine it would feel to have a movie theme, playing in real life as you're doing your thing, walking around and stuff like that. It's so well done, so well mixed. Also, you can hear everything.
It was placed so well in the mix.
Yeah.
It was placed so well.
Everything. The score. Dude, Catwoman and Batman's theme together.
So good.
Oh my God. It felt like you were watching an opera. Like that. It felt like you're watching Romeo and Juliet or something. Like that's what it felt like to me. But not like Star Wars Romeo and Juliet, what John Williams was doing, with that stuff.
Yeah.
But like it's just I don't know. It's so well done. So well done.
Yeah. And the very, very deliberate choice, which was one of when it started at the beginning of the film, right? With Ave Maria.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like a constant theme
through. Come on, bro.
Wait, bro. So they mixed Ave Maria with Something in the Way.
Bruh.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
two things that you
Who's the
just
DJ?
like a little Nirvana with Ave Maria, and
Bro.
so perfectly work together with that boom 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 boom.
I loved
So good.
it. Oh, his
So
theme
good.
was so awesome. It was so Batman, but so not like anything we've heard. It was like, ooh, this is unique, but it still felt like Batman. Like I was like, oh, this is crazy. Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Was the
I think they'll get
Riddler-
nominated for the Oscar for sure for music. I mean,
I
it's
really hope
stupid
so.
good. Stupid good.
The
Michael
was
Giacchino,
that?
bro.
What was
final
that, Jared?
scene in the prison with Riddler breaking out into a song,
Bruh.
into an opera.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
That
he
was
was singing Ave
scripted,
Maria.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
was that scripted? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, Matt's
Or is
never
it one of
sent me the
those things-
screenplay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to get that.
Yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
let me check my email real quick.
Yeah.
Because even if it was scripted, like still, like
Mhm. Mhm.
that feels like a scene where, oh, we're just gonna let the cameras roll, and he just started doing that, so we just put it in the movie.
Mhm. Yeah.
Damn.
But having that
Yeah. No.
having that brought
There's
back
no-
up, it was just awesome. Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be scripted because it like the song plays in the movie. Like,
But that's
It's
the
part
thing,
of-
though.
It-
I don't know if it is.
It could have said that in the script, like
he just-
Ave Maria
and he
plays,
just started
and then
singing
Paul
it?
Dano. Yeah, he's like, Ave, like
Just-
it was just
yeah,
just
which
improv?
by the way, great.
And
Yeah.
they said, "Oh,
Well,
we're
and
gonna
it-
add music to that since he went there with it."
No,
Mhm.
because it's in the film.
Right.
So like when Batman goes to the orphanage,
Right.
it's playing Ave Maria
Right.
that was played at the
At the,
orphanage's opening.
Right.
So it's forever stuck in Riddler's head.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's again like with the continuity of stuff. It was just
Mhm.
things were
Mhm.
layered and weren't forgotten. It was like
Yeah.
it.
Everything was deliberate.
And that was
Like how almost every single card that the Riddler wrote on had an owl on it.
oof.
Was it all of them, or was it just the one?
Pretty much all of them had owls on it.
Also, the mention of the reporter's last name being Elliot and having a direct connection with Thomas Wayne. Holy fucking shit! I might cry.
So many
soon as I
nuggets
saw that, I
everywhere.
was- Does this mean we're getting Hush? Oh
Right.
my!
Yeah.
Bruh.
It feels
There's
like
so much
they
setup there.
subtly set up so
Yeah.
many different
Right.
threads they could
Yeah.
choose to pull at any moment.
Well,
Like how the DA is now dead, so now there's an opening for the DA.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Opening for
Well,
the mayor.
But this is the type of stuff though where you don't hint at future people in the sense of, oh, guess who's coming, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's world building in a very clever way, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, by the way, oh, what's your middle name? Oh, it's what? Like
Yeah.
it's not.
That's my favorite kind of world building.
Yeah.
you
it's
should
like-
go by your real name, Robin.
Yeah, and this is why I love Attack on Titan, because that's the kind of world building they do. Like they
Right.
just drop it in there, but they already know where it's gonna go, so they don't need to mention it again. It's
Right.
just, like,
And
My God.
they let you discover it in the sequel. They're like, next season you see it and you're like,
oh
and then
my
you go
god,
back and notice that it was referenced earlier. You're like, what? It's like that's to me is what I'm seeing in this movie. Again, it felt like it was one complete thing, and that music was such a good tie for it. Like nothing felt out of place. Because I was really hoping we weren't going to get like a pop, something like I was hoping we weren't going to get like some new song that just fit that we wanted to put in here. Like everything musically fit the tone of this movie. And it didn't feel like
no
they were
singles here.
right. It didn't seem like they were trying to get certain things like in the movie because of money, or hey, we want to have this person's song in it, or we're gonna have this soundtrack with a certain producer, so we're gonna tie in them. Like it felt very.
There was no
purposeful.
product placement.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't notice any.
Nothing?
I didn't notice any deliberate product placement at all. Nothing that was like, hold on, what? Oh,
Not even the cars that when Gordon and Batman came back to the mayor's place to check on clues and stuff. Not even a shot of any kind of car brand. It was just
Yeah.
it's just this garage.
Right.
Just
in it,
luxury
looking for
cars.
clues. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
exactly.
And it was multiple different brands in there, which was awesome because usually in a movie
Yeah.
like that, you'll have like Chrysler do all the cars
Yeah.
or
Dodge.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Like in Shang-Chi, it was BMW with their
Exactly.
new iX.
Yep.
You know, so it's
Exactly.
like,
Audi
okay.
for
And
Iron Man films.
exactly. So
Yeah.
there was none of that.
Ford for the newest James Bond.
Right.
Fuck.
What? I think that was the dope part about it though, because like again, being a car guy, Bruce Wayne pulls up in a Stingray, and I was like, oh my god, which was also another motif of his. He likes muscle cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, this
Yeah.
is so dope to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's so on brand for him as Bruce. I was like, that's so fucking sick, dude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he's driving it himself.
Right. He didn't have a butler drive, wasn't it? Was
Yeah,
not
no
driving him.
drivers.
He was like, no, I'm
Yeah.
pulling up on my own,
Yeah.
So good.
Sick.
Yeah.
Man.
So, speculation. Where do you think this can go, right? Like, we have, like, obviously Danny has, theories on certain characters that they've announced or hinted at, Court of Owls, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like, where do you
They've
think...
already said they want to do Mr. Freeze.
I mean, where do you
Oh
think
my
this could go?
God.
Like, where do you think this could go?
My God. No. Oh, we had a question. Super chat about possible characters.
Yes, I wanted to get to those. So we had, do you think, so we have a couple of those actually. We have, do you think we're going to get more off the wall villains in the universe like Killer Croc, Clayface, etc.? Or if so, how would you do characters like that in this universe? And that's from Bailey Wheatland.
I hope they lean into the like it's a one of a kind disease that this character has and that makes them who they are, or they were scarred in some way, or something that still can function in a practical and realistic world, but still have that fantasy element. I mean, that's why Mr. Freeze is my top choice. I mean, me and Jer have been literally screaming and crying from the mountaintops that we want to see a live action Heart of Ice.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But like being able to see Hush, being able to see the Court of Owls, those are really the characters I want to see more than anything else. I'm frankly, I see that in some capacity, we're going to get the Joker. I mean, we've been given the Joker already.
Right.
But my hope is like that we really that's the thing about Batman. And that's what makes him the most unique comic book character, is that he really the only other character who even comes close is Spider-Man. But I still don't think he holds a candle in terms of like the quality of villains. Even Batman's stupid villains are interesting and iconic in their own way. And you have such a huge bag of characters that go from like his core pantheon of characters, but then you can even grab other like sort of DC general characters like Deathstroke and throw them in too if you want him to have like, hey, we've been watching Batman beat the shit out of fools, like beat the ever-living crap out of everybody for 2 movies straight. Like now we want to watch him get beat up. Throw in Bane, throw in Lady Shiva or Deathstroke. I'm like, these are characters that haven't really been done in a way that like they could work really, really well. But Ra's al Ghul,
right?
I would love to see an actual head of the demon, an actual Middle Eastern Ra's al Ghul exploring, introducing Talia, I mean, maybe down the line we get a Damien, like that stuff that I would lose my mind to see.
Right.
So needs to be earned.
To be earned.
I have to ask you a question, because in the film, it seemed, again, I have to watch it again, but color-wise, it seemed like Batman used Venom in it.
We talked about that.
We talked about that a little bit. Yeah.
What?
To me, I think it's the precursor to Venom. Like whatever. Yeah, to Venom. Like I imagine, however they set up Venom and Bane, and in future projects, is that shot of adrenaline essentially that Batman has gets stolen or gets lost or changes hands somehow, and that's the formula like that eventually is going to become Venom.
Right.
That's how I took it.
It could even be something that there's like, once again, like the way that this world hands you information real quick. This will lead back to the Venom discussion in a second, but the way this film respects its audience, that it says, all right, you've seen the Waynes get blasted
Right.
ad infinitum. You don't need to see it. Gordon and Batman, which by the way, this is a scene that Matt Reeves wrote in but then took out. We don't see their origin. We just know, right? Like there's certain elements, like it kind of felt like I dropped in. Danny brought up the animated series. It felt like I dropped in on an animated series episode where like Gordon throws the light. He's they're having a talk, whatever, blah blah blah. So with that being said, whether it's Venom or Venom prototype, Adrenaline, whatever, obviously like it was green. Right. Like it was neon green. Right. Like they were very much implying,
and it wasn't a trick of the light. It was
no, it was lit.
Right.
Yeah, it was lit. So like my thing
Eminem
is that
could have been rapping about this,
Venom. But anyways,
how to do it to him.
But what I'm saying is though, is that with the way this world is building, right? We don't know necessarily what the Wayne family, like Wayne Industries, or however Wayne holds power in Gotham. And with the father being a doctor, who knows? Maybe we might get a Bane introduction that he was a scientist working for Wayne. We don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's
so
a lot
many
of possibilities
threads that could connect.
Correct. And so with that being said, like there's just a lot of options ahead. And for me, what villains should show up next. Once again, I walked in being like, how are you going to make the Riddler cool? Like, how is this going to work?
Right.
I don't like this character. Make me like him. Right. And they gave me something that I didn't anticipate that I actually ended up enjoying. Right. I very much wish that we did not see the Arkham prisoner. I really wish we didn't see it.
Like Scarred Arkham prisoner.
I
could have done without that
at all. That was a complete missed opportunity. Like, it's funny because I just complimented how this movie just respects our opinion and respects our knowledge of the franchise, right? You can't introduce the Joker because one time a long time ago they had a thing and we didn't know it yet because but no, this is the Joker. Like if you're gonna do that, we need to see this character, we need to see this movie, and that's why it just doesn't need to exist. I would much rather be something
scene for sure.
It shouldn't have even been. That scene was a studio note.
That was honestly, that was the only thing. Like my only gripe on the film is it could have been 15 to 20 minutes shorter. That was my only gripe. Is like it felt like the movie could have ended 3 times, and I was like, So while I enjoyed what I saw, that sequence in Arkham, to me, didn't need to be there, and I would have been completely fine with what they were showing. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm assuming that's Joker. Cool. But it was like his story thread was already complete. I didn't need to see him in Arkham with the Joker. Like, I didn't need to see him.
You know who's playing him, right? Who's playing the unnamed Arkham prisoner?
No.
Barry Keoghan.
A.K.A. Eternals.
Yeah, A.K.A. when you see this motherfucker on a screen, you know shit is about to get crazy. Like, he is insane.
Yeah, he's really good.
Druig from the Eternals.
Mind control guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was also in Tenet?
Dunkirk.
Oh.
Dunkirk.
And he was in The Green Knight.
Yeah, he was in The Green Knight.
I still haven't seen The Green Knight. Is it good? Okay, we'll talk about it.
It's amazing.
Bro,
let's talk about it later time.
I love it.
Later time.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Not for everyone.
Right.
No, not even, not at all. But so it's I mean, once again, casting wise, yes, I would love that. I would really love that. I think that he would do something incredible with this role. But I just don't want it. Especially with, once again, like the way that they made him look. Once again, we just saw a little bit of him, which is definitely them trying to keep their cards close to their chest.
Right.
And apparently the deleted scene that is a expansion upon it, we don't even see him at all.
Right.
And I just don't want any of it. Like I would have much rather it be I would much rather it be either we see, like, there's just a bunch of different ways. Like the way that they handled, the potential of Hush, the way that they potentially like winked and nodded about the Court of Owls.
Mhm.
That's exactly what we should have had
Harvey
with
Dent.
the Joker, or
That's-
like leaving it open for Harvey Dent.
Yeah, that's
Should've just
how
been-
I prefer things being set up for, future
Correct.
things. Like it's just a side effect of things that happen in your story in
Right,
this
correct.
movie.
Right.
Not like,
Correct.
put in this scene specifically just to set something else up next
Right.
time.
Correct.
I
Correct.
hate it when that happens because it doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't really feel earned most of the time. It just feels like it's forced in there. It's almost like a studio note.
It
Versus things that like the Hush thing or a Court of Owls thing, and Venom even like
Venom.
it just happens in the movie, and it could lead to something else in the future, but it doesn't have to.
Right.
Yeah. I think of those
for me-
options though, Danny. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, based on like once again the state that Gotham is in, the power vacuum, I think Lady Shiva would be the fucking, that would be the coolest one. Like that really, like when you said that, I was like, oh, like, because like it's that perfect moment. Like the city is
Best
literally like,
hand-to-hand combatant in the DCU. So I mean,
for sure.
She would handedly fuck Batman up. He would really have to use a
Yes.
lot of his brains and brawn.
Well, yeah, we would have to see him grow immensely. And what a danger too, this early in his career. You know what I mean?
See,
Like,
But
crazy.
But I
Yeah.
feel like if you're going to introduce Lady Shiva, it's a great
Sure.
opportunity to introduce Cass Kane. Which, if they're going to do that, they should really do that down
Mm.
the line.
Yeah.
If I was in charge of the cinematic universe, introduce Lady Shiva when you're going to introduce Cass Kane. At least Cass Kane as a child or a baby or something like that, and because then you can do something with that character. And
Mhm.
Cass Kane is such a fucking amazing and interesting character, but also like I still am of the mind that if they're going to introduce the sidekicks, they need to start with Dick and they need to start with Barbara. And then they need to give us Jason.
Mhm.
And then I'm pretty much neutral on whoever they introduce after that. But those three, I really want those three to be Dick, Barbara, and Jason. Dick and Barbara can be interchangeable.
Let's be honest though. I think that's going to be really the challenge. I think is are the sidekicks going to be something that people want to see, because it hasn't really been pushed really ever. You know what I'm saying? We had the one Batman and Robin movie and it was dog shit. So
yeah, because Batman's over here adopting a 35-year-old man.
Right. So
like, yeah, what are you doing?
So I think in that regard, it's like, how do you get people on board with the fact of that, right? Like, how do you paint that in this world? And I think it's possible. I don't think it's not.
You can do it.
I don't think it's not difficult.
With those looks that Batman had with the kid.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I've been thinking about it for years. Dude, you can do it. You can do it, man.
So I think it's possible. I just think what does Matt Reeves envision for how he wants to do his subsequent movies? And it's like, is Robin an asset to that, or would it just be an afterthought thrown in? Like, is he going to be something that is going to be needed to combat whoever, or you know what I'm saying? Like, and how far ahead in the future is the next film? It could be 5 years later. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like he's been.
I think there is a time jump. They were talking about it.
I would really hope so. Like, there would be a good amount of time though, where we're not dealing with the same, like the end of the movie.
We're not
Batman.
going to year 3.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're established now as this new version of who I was trying to become and who I became at the end of the movie. And now we're in that version of Batman now.
Yes.
I think they can introduce Robin. I think this world can function with it, especially with the way that this Batman, I really do believe that the way this Batman has been characterized, they could do it. And they would need to establish the first Robin specifically to not just be a child, because that's the biggest issue. It's like you throw a child into the field, it's going to be, that's so reckless and stupid. Yeah, right. But if you have, and again, I've been thinking about this for years. DC, hit me up. I know how you can do it. But literally, you have Robin going out and doing the shit that Batman would do without Batman's permission. Batman keeps trying to stop him, but Dick won't stop. He just keeps doing it. He keeps trying to find Tony Zuko, find the person who killed his parents, and he just won't stop. He won't let it go. And Bruce, there's nothing he can do about it. So Bruce ultimately is like, the kid is formidable. He is one of the greatest acrobats in the world. So he's already physically, more imposing than a normal 12 or 13-year-old or whatever age they give him. Ideally, right. I think low teens is the best place to do it, because it's not like a fucking 8-year-old. But like, you establish that, set that up, and then Batman is sort of like, his hand is forced. He's like, okay, well, I can either train this kid, or else he's going to go out there and get himself killed, because he doesn't have an Alfred or whoever to train him to fight. But again, that's literally fanboy dreams. If they don't do Robin, I would be sad, but I would also, as long as we're still getting good stories from this world, I don't, it is what it is. I
wouldn't be mad if they didn't do Robin, because then we can do it.
That's true.
Facts.
I mean, hey, if this series goes on long enough, we might get our chance. Who knows? We'll see.
Let's do it. So before we wrap up, guys, we have some fun rankings. Because I know a lot of us in the community are going to do this anyways, and I know a lot of you guys are gonna ask how we rank certain aspects of this movie to other movies. So, and maybe you guys can play along with us as well. So, first up, top 5 ranking of live action Batman. Top 5. Chat, let us know your top 5 of live action Batman, whatever order.
The Batman.
Ian, let's start with you, brother. How you ranking the Batman in live action?
Okay, so earlier I mentioned that they don't let me out of the basement, and this is the segment why they don't let me out of the basement.
He's like, this person trash. This person trash.
Cut his feet, Adonis. Cut his feet. Hurry before it's too late. Cut his feet.
It's too late. I'm here now. Okay, so all right, so for Batman's the Bat fellas, right?
Bat fellas.
Top 5 Bat fellas.
All right, here we go.
I'm gonna go from 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
Okay, so remember that 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
Countdown.
Let's go. All right.
We ain't going from Okay. Number 5. I'm giving it to Val.
Ooh,
I'm giving it to Val Kilmer.
Okay.
Look, like once again, that movie is imperfect, right? But I think that the version of Bruce Wayne as a playboy, right, as well as Batman as a character, right? I think once again, suit neck thing aside, I think he nails it. I think he does. Okay.
Right.
Next one, number 4. I'm giving it to Christian Bale.
Okay.
As much as I would love some subtitles sometimes for that man, right? Like I think that he gives us a very interesting techno Batman that is really cool.
All right.
And once again, like I don't really count The Dark Knight Rises in anything in any of this. So I'm talking specifically Batman Begins to The Dark Knight.
Okay.
And suddenly it just ended. I don't know why. It's weird. Somebody talked about like there's a deleted scene where he's hobbling around his house. I don't know. It's weird. I don't. It's like Indiana Jones 4. It doesn't exist.
And then he kicks through a wall, and we never address that again.
Nope.
Yeah. They break the bat. I don't know. Anyway, so Christian Bale makes my number 4. I think that he's actually a pretty good bat. Number 3, we're going classic. It's Adam West.
Ooh.
Okay,
Ooh,
Adam West.
Ooh,
Adam West.
The West.
My number 3.
Ooh.
And once again, like I said, this is why they don't let me out of the basement, y'all. Adam West
is
my
great.
number 3. No, it's just once again, I've got some wild opinions sometimes.
Okay.
West is iconic, like legitimately iconic. You cannot step on that man's legacy. He created a character out of a comic book that felt comic book accurate for the time. Like it was mind blowing. Like he really did feel like he leapt off the page.
Yeah, he did play comic book Batman.
Yeah,
he did.
The time it came out.
He did.
Yeah.
Yep. Carrying giant bombs and all sorts of stuff. So
Little known fact, Adam West's Batman series saved DC Comics at the time. They were not doing super well at the time. I believe I watched that in a documentary called The Secret Origins of the DC Universe, if you want to check it out. They talked about how Adam West's Batman was essentially like a saving grace that ended up not only saving Batman, but DC Comics as a whole. Good stuff.
Truly.
Carry on.
Number 2, giving it to Michael Keaton.
Ooh, the Keats.
Wow.
Now, the Keats gets it. The Keats gets it kind of similar to Kilmer. Okay. But the thing is, we got 2 movies with Keaton. We got 2 bats out of that. And we both got what was before Christian Bale, but before the Christopher Nolan, more or less like realism era. We got what was, in my opinion, the perfection of a comic book movie. Like Gotham looks so crazy in those movies. All the characters are characters in those movies. But yet at the same time, Batman is a playboy playing detective who also has all the cool gadgets. And I would hasten to suggest, I don't know, this is not an actual fact that I can back up with any sort of source, but that version of Batman informed Batman the Animated Series. Like the gadgets, the toys, the version of that version of Gotham is kind of what we see. Obviously, Batman the Animated Series is its own thing, but it is very much, I think, following in the success of Batman 89 into Batman Returns. And then number 1, giving it to the new kid on the block. It goes to Robert Pattinson.
Wow.
That guy on the block
it.
where Abercrombie.
That guy did it. He did it, like for real. And honestly, once again, like I gave him a little bit of flack for the MCR haircut. Okay. But we all love the Black Parade. We're all going to carry on.
Okay.
And I
love his hair. I think his hair looks great.
The thing is, though, is like I honestly really like. I went in and just really loved this version of Batman. Like he really felt like the character that we have all thought of, but a young man. Like that's what was so cool about it too, is he wasn't living in this legacy that he didn't build. He is a young man, and it just felt right. Everything felt right. So that's my top 5.
I respect
it. Top 5.
Thank you.
I respect it. Top 5. Jer.
Yeah.
What? How do you rank your Batman, sir?
All right. So I'm gonna go off of Ian, going 5 to 1.
Okay.
My 5 would be Val Kilmer.
Okay.
And so this list, for like how I was saying before about cinematography capturing a feeling, my ranking is based off of like the way that I feel, like shots that stick out in my head every time I hear any of these names, the feelings that these shots capture. And so 5, Val Kilmer, and specifically the shot of him. There's a shot where right after he puts on the suit and he kind of turns to the light, and just all black background, and he's in his bat suit, and the cut of light just hits right across his eyes. That's Batman right there.
Okay.
So number 5. 4 would be Ben Affleck.
Okay. Affleck. Okay.
And specifically because that shot in the opening of Batman v Superman, like he's literally like the cop is down in the basement, and then what the heck? He looks up and holy shit, that's the Batman. The fucking gargoyle in the corner of the room, and he just zips across, shoots a shotgun, and just out the door. Like what?
Yeah.
That's Batman. 3, Michael Keaton.
Okay. Keats.
Wait, no.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Keaton. You're about to lose the spot. What's going on?
Ooh. Yeah, I'd say 3 is Michael Keaton.
Okay.
3 Michael Keaton. And specifically the shot where he's not Batman, he's Bruce Wayne, and he's trying to figure out Penguin story. And he's sitting at his computer and he's just looking at the file, and it's a shot on his face and just pushes in, and as he realizes that the Penguin Oswald is just the person, and that's Bruce Wayne right there, and that's why he's number 3. Number 2, Christian Bale. Specifically the moment where he's at home after Rachel had died, and he's sitting The sun is just barely, it's just like the crack of dawn. Like after a night of just the worst night of his life, essentially. He's still in a suit and he has his helmet on the floor and he's holding his helmet in his hand and just slowly pushes him as he's sitting in his penthouse suite out basically the world at his fingertips, but yet he doesn't have anything left.
Right.
Yep.
That's Batman right there. And number 1 is Robert Pattinson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
That's Batman.
Wow. Okay. So look, I'm gonna have to go before Danny because I think Danny, you're probably gonna have you're probably gonna have more detailed explanations of why you're Batman. My Batman's really gonna be focused on like the feeling I get from this character. Like, do I feel like you're touching certain bases to me? And I'm more on like the specific movie, I guess. Like, I think I'll kind of go 5-1 as well. We're just gonna keep following that suit. So number 5 to me is actually Clooney.
Clooney.
For whatever reason, bro, for whatever reason in
the Bat credit card.
For whatever reason in the
It
suit,
reads on Batman.
for whatever reason in the suit, I was like, this motherfucker. I don't know why, and maybe it was just because when I was a kid, like it just felt so cool to see this dude. And he would just add, and I was like, yo, this is fucking Batman. I fucking hate the movies.
Are you a Clooney fan?
Not necessarily, but for whatever reason in that movie, I was like, yo, he looks like fucking Batman, bro. Like, it felt like Batman to me. Even though it was product placement and fucking, them just selling toys.
The bat nipples.
The bat nips. Number 4 is actually Bale for me. So, and it's really because personally, I could not stand him talking as Batman. It was actually driving me insane. He talks like this. His mouth, like it was actually bugging me, and I'm just like, bro, can you stop, bro? Like, stop. It would just bug me. But I loved the tactile nature his suit had. I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. But he, to me, didn't have the coolest car. Again, I'm a car guy. I'm like, he kind of drives a tank. I was like, so I was like, nah, probably not my favorite, right? 3 is Michael Keaton, the Keats. Keaton just had the sauce. He just had the bat sauce. Like,
oh yeah,
there was just something about his Batman. You're like, bro, you are saucy, bro. He just has that. Yeah. And you see, I mean, but I think it's also too Keaton himself. He has like this aura about him on camera where you're just like, damn, dude, like you're just fucking Michael Keaton, my guy. Number 2 is actually Pattinson. Number 2 is Pattinson. And to be honest, I think it's because of the Batman that he's playing here. It's a unique take on him as Batman. I think as Batman, he's awesome. I think as Bruce, I'm waiting to see him now become the Bruce that is public facing. I'm waiting for that. So I think up until now, I'm going to put him at number 2. My number 1 is BBS Batfleck. BBS Batfleck to me he just has it to me. The beginning with him as Bruce, looking down, seeing what's going on in the city, him running into like debris, like he has like this gravitas as Batman. Him staring down Clark Kent when they're having the meeting in the art thing with he just standing there look like. And it's funny because they kind of both know who they are, but they're not saying it. Like, there's just something about him as Batman that I was like, and he, I don't know, he just delivers it in BVS. I don't really care for how they use him and kind of change his character in the Justice League movies. But in BVS, I think that's my favorite Batman at this point. However, I really feel that Pattinson is like right fucking there. He's so good in being this different style of Batman. So
he needs one more movie.
He needs that extra movie to be like, haha, I'm here, bitch. Like, that's really what I'm waiting for, is that other side of Batman from him, of just the Bruce that is that public facing Bruce. But Danny. The one that I think a lot of people in the chat are probably waiting to hear from as far as who's the Batman of Batman.
Kind of funny. All of our lists are actually really different, which is interesting, and I think it's indicative of the fact that this character has been around for so long and is so interesting and can be interpreted so many different ways, that this character can appeal to so many different people in different ways and can be portrayed in so many different ways. So, you know, big ups to Batman being the shit. I'll start with number 5, Kilmer. Number 5, I'm giving Kilmer number 5 because I feel like he looks great as Bruce Wayne. He looks good as Batman.
He does look good as Bruce.
He is the first Batman, live action Batman I saw outside of Adam West.
Okay.
So I didn't watch the Keaton movies until I was a little older because they were a lot darker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't watch those until I was a little bit older.
Same. My dad
which takes me to number 4, Michael Keaton.
Okay.
And I give Michael Keaton number 4 because I love Michael Keaton. I love his performance. I think he's great in the role as Batman. I think he's great in the role as Bruce Wayne. He doesn't look to me, and never, ever has looked how I feel Batman looks. And specifically Bruce Wayne. He doesn't look how I imagine Bruce Wayne looking.
Yeah. It's a very late 80s Bruce Wayne.
It's a very Tim Burton casting, but that doesn't make it any less phenomenal. It's its own interpretation. I love those movies, especially I actually like Batman Returns more than Batman 89 because Danny DeVito's performance as the Penguin is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Young DeVito.
But I'm going to have to, I put him at number 4 because when he rips his cowl off his head in Batman Returns, his eye makeup was gone. So and he literally shot to Michelle Pfeiffer, then shot back to him, and he's taking it off, and he's got the black makeup, and they cut to her, they cut to him, and the makeup is gone. I'm just kidding, but
where your raccoon
hero
eyes?
shot. That brings me to numero tres. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, my headphone just died in my left ear. Great. Number 3. Where's Falcone? He was given the United citizen. Gotta give it to Bale. Bale, I really thought nailed Bruce Wayne and Playboy Bruce Wayne really, really well. I thought his interpretation of Playboy Bruce Wayne was the first time I'd seen that in live action, really done with great effect of Bruce Wayne, not just of him being himself as Bruce Wayne, but then being a character, a caricature of how people perceive him in order to blend in, but also social engineer his surroundings to believe that he is the dickhead that he presents, taking a bath in a pond and whatever. I put him at number 3 because his voice is absolutely insufferable. It was the wrong choice.
It was. I agree.
And he did it fine in Batman Begins because in Batman Begins he had levels to his voice. But once you got to the Dark Knight, it was this the entire time, and it was just it takes you out of it. I mean, it's still great. Still love him. Bale. Number 3. Number 2. All right. Now this one it's hard for me because I feel like I can flip this one back with Bale, and that's Batman Fleck.
Interesting. That's a shock.
Wow.
I really like his look, and I really like the way he moves, and I like his costume, and I like a lot of things about Ben Affleck's Batman, specifically in BVS. I am not a fan of the direction he went in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I thought his action scenes weren't as cool, and his costume his costume was made by a different costumer for that movie, and it looked substantially more stiff and poofy than his suit in BVS. Poofy. So I'm specifically just going off of BVS. The reason why he's number 2, he played Bruce Wayne well. He played Playboy Bruce Wayne well, and he played Batman well. And the voice modulator was a really cool and interesting take on a familiar concept of him changing his voice. I thought that was really inspired and interesting at the time. He's number 2 because he kills people, and Batman doesn't kill people. And he should be lower on the list for that.
Yeah,
he should be lower
for that.
But Keaton was mowing fools down too. So Batfleck also, I think, has the second best Batmobile. Next to number 1, George Clooney.
Whoa, Pattinson didn't make the list.
Come on, it's obviously Pattinson. I just feel like I have something there to change it up. But no, Pattinson for me is number 1 because of the range of emotion we got in one single movie. Because we got a detective, because we got a brawler, because we got an emotionally scarred and damaged human being. I feel like, yes, I do want to see how he portrays Playboy Bruce Wayne, and I think we're going to get there, and I think we're watching the evolution of that, and I hope that they do something a little different than Playboy Bruce Wayne was with Affleck and Bale, which was essentially just a drunk asshole. Right. Like, if you think about it.
Right.
Exactly. Both times they played, I'm looking for the bathroom, or I'm going to jump in this pond and dance with this. So, and they left the black makeup around his eyes. So, and he had the cool hair, and he was all emo looking. And I was just
dude, I love this year 2 feel. The year 2, perfect choice. I don't need to see year 1 again. Year 2, just enough, but still young enough that he's still, arrogant and, fucking around a lot too.
Yes.
Because, like, imagine if you were a year 15 Batman. Would you be revving your muscle car, or would you just catch the fucking bad guy?
Well, if you're Affleck, you'll just fucking shoot him. You just use your
Here's my bat gun.
Mini guns.
Okay.
And I understand that there's a context for that in the movie. It's just, it goes against my visualization of who Batman is, which is not necessarily really a problem with the movie. It's more of my conceived notions about that character and how I believe that they should be portrayed. But that's a different conversation.
All right. Well, there you guys go.
Another shot real quick. Christian Bale, number 2 on my list, is that shot of him looking at the gun after the trial and then tossing it into the river. That's Batman to me. That's why he's number 2 for me.
So next top 5, guys. Next top 5 is live action villains. Live action.
Do we want
to
speed run this one?
Yes, a speed run this one. So live action villains, top 5. Ian, what you got?
Okay, my top 5. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Ready.
I'm actually gonna go 1 to 5 this time as a villain. I'm gonna change it up on y'all.
Okay.
So 1 to 5. Ready?
Yep.
So, the Dark Knight Joker.
Okay.
You got to go with the Dark Knight Joker. I mean, for God's sakes. Colin Farrell, Penguin. Number 2.
Ooh.
Batman blew my mind. Number 3, DeVito Penguin. I am a big fan of that Cobblepot with the 3 fingers. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4, Joker Nicholson. I loved Joker Nicholson. There's something more dangerous about that one. And then my number 5 is Thomas Wayne from The Joker. He's a villain in that movie. He is a true villain in that movie. He's a jerk. And I cannot let him skate by again. Okay, so he's on my list, top 5.
Joaquin Phoenix put his dirty ass man fingers into his son's mouth.
Truly,
he put his fingers in this child's mouth. And
truly,
that is
but
some creepy, disturbing shit.
Yeah, no, he's a villain. I'm categorizing it. Anyways, go ahead,
Jared. What you got?
I had little time to think about this list, but number 1, obviously, Dark Knight Joker. Number 2, Riddler, Batman. Just because Riddler over Penguin, because I feel like Riddler had more to do. I don't know if that's even a good reason.
Right.
But Penguin, I fully expect that the next time we see him, it's going to be at the top of that power vacuum that just happened in this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 is Danny DeVito Penguin, just purely again, back to that shot of Batman figuring, seeing his backstory and stuff like that. And also this Penguin's just terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Yeah. Like what's with the teeth? Why did you just bite that guy's nose off?
Yeah.
And doesn't
Yeah.
he eat like
that
raw
moment
fish?
freaked
Like
me the
straight up,
fuck
like,
out as
He was
Gollum?
eating raw fish,
Yes.
bro.
Yeah, straight up Gollum shit
Yes.
right there. And I can't think of 4 and 5 right now. Fuck, there's so
Obviously,
many villains.
Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, Mr. Freeze live action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, chill. Get down.
Yeah,
Time for you
those
to
are my
chill
top
out.
3 right now. I'll have to come back for 4 and 5.
That's fair. All right,
Copy.
so I'm gonna go 5
Copy
to
that.
1. So
Okay.
I got Colin Farrell Penguin actually at number 5. After that, I have Ra's al Ghul from Batman Begins. I just thought he was an awesome character. I have Steppenwolf from Zack Snyder's Justice League at number 3.
Stephen A. Wolf.
Stephen Wolf.
I actually really liked him in Zack Snyder's interpretation of the movie. I thought he was really dope. Number 2 is the Riddler from Batman, from the Batman, and number 1, Joker from Dark Knight.
Gotta go.
When
with
I
it.
was ranking them, I ranked them based off of the movie that they were in. So I ranked it off of, I said the movie's villains. So the villains that are in this movie. So if there are 2 villains in the movie, I bundled them together and I graded them together.
Okay.
So number 5, Joker, Batman 89, Jack Nicholson. Number 4, Catwoman and Penguin, Batman Returns. Because goddamn, fucking Danny DeVito just chewed up the scenery and that guy's face. It's good stuff. It's good soup.
Good soup.
Number 3, Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow, or Ra's al Ghul, as they call him in Batman Begins.
But it's Ra's.
But it's Ra's. Number 2. Now, I was going back and forth between 1 and 2, and I was thinking just like, what did I have more fun watching in the moment?
Okay.
And to be honest, it could be rose-tinted glasses, and I could go back and forth.
Okay.
Number 2 is Joker and Two-Face from The Dark Knight.
Wow.
Really, if it was just the Joker, he would be number 1. But I think it's because Two-Face, I just don't love it as much as a character. I think he's done really well. But, so that puts Riddler and Penguin at number 1 for me because I had such a great time watching them, but I already regret it and feel like putting Heath Ledger's Joker at number 2 is heresy.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to commit so I can be different from the rest of you and be a bit rebellious. I'm going to put my black makeup on and put on some Nirvana.
Okay.
Yeah, you forgot Falcone though. So it's actually got
Falcone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Three for at the top.
It's a trifecta.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. I added him. Thank you. Yeah. So now Falcone, because Falcone, excellently done in this movie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which was a surprise, by the way. He was an absolute surprise. I didn't think he was playing him, and I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. Okay, so last top 5, guys, before we wrap up. The last top 5 is top 5 Batman film. So whatever movie Batman is in, besides Suicide Squad, because so Ian, where are you at, player?
Okay. Countdown from number 5.
Number 5.
Batman 89.
Oh, okay.
Batman 89.
Okay.
Number 4. Batman Begins.
Oh, okay.
Number 3. Batman Returns.
Oh.
Number 2. The Dark Knight.
Oh.
And then, of course, number 1. The Batman.
Oh.
We're going for it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm
One
assuming,
viewing.
and I'm assuming it's based on the writing. I'm assuming it's based on the writing for you.
It's based on just that full product. Like that full product is it's a work of art.
Yeah.
So from top to bottom, from the page to the screen, it's a work of art.
Sweet.
I'm saying it. So
sweet.
There you go.
Sweet.
For me, number 5, Batman v Superman.
Okay.
Number 4, Batman 89. Number 3, Batman Returns.
Right.
Number 2, The Dark Knight. And number 1, The Batman. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Shit. Yo, this is kind of wild, bro. This is kind of wild. Okay, so So mine is literally based off of how these movies actually made me feel when I watched them.
Okay.
So that's what I'm basing these off of. Not technicals, just when I got done watching it, how did I feel about it? So, number 5, Batman Begins.
Okay.
Number 4, The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Number 3, BVS The Ultimate Edition. I absolutely fucking love that movie. Number 2, The Batman. And number 1 is Zack Snyder's Justice League is my favorite out of all of them.
Crazy. That list is crazy.
Is literally my
that is
favorite.
a wild ass list.
Who the fuck are you?
But again, like I was saying, it's literally when I got done watching the movie, like, how did I fucking feel? Yeah. So yeah.
Huh.
Okay. All
Danny.
right.
Again, I think we're all going to have pretty different, in some ways, lists.
Here we go.
Number 5, Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition.
Okay.
Has to be Ultimate Edition,
Has to.
not theatrical.
Yeah.
Number 4, Batman Returns. Really, again, Penguin.
Right.
Number 3, Batman Begins.
Ooh.
Just
It's so
underrated
good. It's so good.
for how fucking good it is,
Yeah.
and it is the quintessential origin story, and it does it really well. It's the last movie prior to to the Batman where like Gotham was actually a character in it. Number 2, The Dark Knight, which makes number 1 The Batman. And again, gotta give it to the Batman because I know you guys have already said it. On every single level, it is a masterpiece in my opinion.
Yeah, it's incredible.
In every single level, I was hyped and so excited and felt like I was a kid experiencing this for the first time. And I felt like that pretty much every Batman movie, I'll feel like. But the Batman actually having technical merit and also being more experienced in my life as a professional and all this, it's like I can see things in this movie that I couldn't see in The Dark Knight when I was 18 or whatever, however old I was at that time. Like this movie made me feel a way that I still really am having a hard time putting into words. It resonates with me on a level that is so personal that like I'm just overwhelmed with joy from watching it, even though it was very
dark
in nature. So yeah, that's my list, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, that's what's
but
up.
It might change.
All right,
so.
It probably will change. You know what I'm saying? Like,
dude, this is why I love the Batman so much, because there's always, I mean, you say there's silver lining around every cloud, right? Like, even though this movie is dark in nature, it's not just a sad ass movie. Right. There's so many different levels of emotions to it, and that's what I love about it. And when people say, "Oh, another dark Batman movie," okay, do you know anything about storytelling then? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
but also on that, like Batman, like this is why I saw someone's take was like Batman there was no levity in this movie. There was no fun in this movie, quote unquote. I had a lot of fun, but like there was no jokes and this and that. And I'm like, every superhero movie is giving you that. Batman is the one single character who you can make this kind of story about and actually build the world and keep it going and have it fundamentally be truthful to the core of his character and like literally surround it with, I mean, his entire fucking backstory, his entire reason for existing is trauma and mental health,
right?
Like mental illness and all that. So there's the complexity and darkness of his universe in general is like, this is the character where you can explore these themes with.
Right.
You're, it's almost an obligation to do so, to truly service the character and the world and the fans in general. So, yeah.
I agree. Guys, what do you guys think yourselves? Let us know in the chat. What are your top 5s? Let us know in the comments. Also, really quick, just want to address a couple of super chats before we wrap up. We have Justin said, glad to see you guys. I knew I was going to love this movie when Batman was looking at the kid. You can see the pain in his eyes. To me, that told me exactly who this Batman was, and that was from Jesse MS Art. And then we have Beefy with, what's up, brother? Glad I was able to catch your live stream. Appreciate you guys. But yeah, let us know in the chat, in the comments, how y'all feel about the Batman. What are your top fives? And let us know if you learned anything from the ismahawk team on how we broke down some of the stuff in the movie. And maybe stay tuned to the ismahawk channel for some new things in the future, because there's some things on the way. But other than that, guys, I appreciate you guys. Thank the crew for coming through. Love you guys, man, for rocking with your boy on this. It was super fun. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next stream. We out.
Bye, guys. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.